All right, good afternoon. I'd like to call the October 24th, 2019 meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council to order at 2:20 PM. Machine is open for roll call. With record reflect that all 9 council members are present. We're going to go ahead and move to executive session. Before we read it out, I'm going to move for a suspension of the rules at the request of the Parish Legal Department. There's a motion to suspend the rules to add Tammy Bradley versus Plaquemines Parish Government Civil Service Docket Number 19-001 to executive session. Do you have a motion? Dr. Gooey, seconded by Mr. Albro. Any questions or comments on the suspension? All right, none. Machine is open. Passes 9-0. All right, item number 2. Please read A.
The Parish of Plaquemines versus ConocoPhillips et al., 25th JDC number 60-982, Division B, in all its consolidated cases. Attorneys Carmouche, Cosich, Parasola, Taylor, Connick, Burglass, and Tankersley. Councilmember Gooey.
Also, we have Tammy Bradley versus Plaquemines Parish Government Civil Service Docket Number 19-001. Councilmember Black, can I have an offer? Dr. Gooey and Ms. Newberry seconds. Any questions or comments? All right, the machine is open on executive session. Passes 9-0. We're going to take a recess and go into executive session at 2:22 p.m. Call the meeting back to order at 2:45 p.m. with no actions out of executive session. Go through your agenda real quick and key in if you have any deferrals or withdrawals. Mr. Russo?
Yes, at this time I'll defer item number 9A4 and withdraw 9A3.
Mr. Kognovich?
Oh, excuse me.
I'm sorry.
That's the wrong number. I'm sorry. 9A4 will maintain on the agenda. I'm looking for B as the one to be,
Is 3 still withdrawn?
excuse me?
Is 3 still withdrawn?
Wait a minute, let me get straight here. 9A3 is withdrawn
Okay.
and B is deferred.
All right. Mr. Kognovich?
Defer 9A2.
That's all?
Yeah.
All right, Mr. Blink?
I'd like to defer 9A9.
That's all? Dr. Gooey?
Withdraw 9-5. 9A5, excuse me.
Okay. All right, I have a couple, so I'm gonna go ahead and just read them out. 9A2 is deferred. 3 is withdrawn. 5 is withdrawn. 9 is deferred. Item 9B is deferred. F, G, H, I, and J are all deferred. And that's all. Everybody's good with that? Yes, sir. All right, we have no proclamations. Item 4, status report by the parish president to include update by charter directors, old business, new business. Mr. President? All right, no report. Any from the directors? I know you guys sent the stuff out. All right, any questions or comments for the administration from the table? All right, with none from the audience. All right, with none, we're going to move to bids and advertisements. Do we have any? All right, no bids and advertisements. Item 6, queue in if you have a beer or liquor license. I have one. It is for the Clubhouse Bar and Grill 8133 Highway 23 in Belle Chase, Louisiana. Mr. Russo.
Yes, I have N&L LLC, Belchase Exxon Liquor Class B, located at 10830 Highway 23 for a renewal. I have a renewal for State Oil Fuel Center, Class B liquor license for 7124 Highway 23, renewal. Another State Oil Fuel Center, Class A liquor license, Highway 23, 7124, renewal. Villanueva LLC, liquor license, Class A renewal, 7670 Highway 23, Suite A. That's all I have.
Dr. Gui.
I have one, Maria's Restaurant LLC for a Class A liquor license, 8475 Highway 23, Suite B, Belchase.
Ms. Newberry.
Yes, Penny's Gas Station, Villisack, at 12753 Highway 23 in Belchase, and that's for a 2020 renewal liquor license.
Mr. Albro.
I have one, Townview Cafe for a Class A liquor license located at 7918 Highway 23.
Mr. LaFrance.
I have a special event application for the Couchon Delay for Sheriff Jerry Tullidge, 18038 Highway 23, Port South, Louisiana, on November the 3rd.
All right, Mr. Kognovich.
Yeah, I have a special event permit for Plaquemines Parish Fair and Orange Festival, Fort Jackson, Buras, Louisiana, date 12/2 to 12/9. And I have an alcohol permit for Elsie Marine Hardware, 42991 Highway 23. Cypress Cove Grill LLC, 226 Cypress Cove Road. Cypress Cove Marina, 235 Cypress Cove Road. Iguanas Daiquiri Express, 123 El Dorado Street, Buras. Deep Delta Houseboats LLC, 237 Sports Marina Road, Suite A, Venice. Deep Delta Houseboats LLC, 237 Sports Marina Road, Venice.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open on the beer and liquor licenses. Passes 9-0. Any objection to taking A1, 2, and 3 in Globo? All right, with none, read items 7A1, 2, and 3, please.
7A1 Hillcorp Energy Company, application number 2019-700 dated October 10th, 2019. Install 4-inch flue line and 2-inch gas line, Lake Grand Ecali area, Councilmember Blink. 7A2 S2 Energy Operating LLC, application number 2019-701 dated October 10th, 2019. Install Powell clusters, drill the Burwood prospect and install wellhead protector, West Delta area, Block 82, Councilmember Kognovich. 7A3 Key Operating Company, application number 2019-703 dated October 11th, 2019. Excavate a borrow ditch and use material to build ring levee at an existing well site. Install land-based drilling rig and drill the Oncolade well number 1 Empire Field, Councilmember Blink.
Can I get an offer? Ms. Newberry offers, can I get a second? Mr. Blink seconds. Any questions or comments on those 3 items from the table, from the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open on items 7A1, 2, and 3 in Globo. Item passes 7 yeas with 2 abstentions from myself and Mr. Kognovich. Any objection on taking B, C, and D in Globo? All right, with no objections, 7B, C, and D, please. Read
Seven
those.
B, TNT Boat Rentals, Troy Petrovich, trailer residence used as commercial business in an A2 zoning district, 3110660, Highway 23, Narren, Louisiana, Councilmember Blink. 7C, Benjamin Boyce, new residence in FP zoning district, 101 Timber Canal Lane, Myrtle Grove, Louisiana, Councilmember LaFrance. And 7D, Ford Boothville LLC, final approval, dash 2019 new trailer park with 9 spaces, 41073 Highway 23, Boothville, Louisiana, Councilmember LaFrance.
I can ask for offer. Before we offer, Mr. Blank, you had something?
There may have been one of these agenda items that went to the wrong council member.
Okay, which one?
Item D.
Okay, we just make record, we'll switch those up. All right, thank you, Ms. Toops. All right, do we have an offer?
So offer.
Mr. LaFrance offer, second by Mr. Blank. Any questions or comments on items B, C, and D? All right, with none, from the machine's open. Passes 9-0. Go ahead and cue in on introductions of resolutions and ordinances. I have a couple. A resolution to provide employees group insurance coverages consisting of medical, vision, dental, and life for the policy period January 1, 2020 through December 31st, 2020 on an employer-employee contributing basis of 72% by 28% and otherwise provide with respect thereto. A resolution to cancel the November 28th, 2019 and December 26th, 2019 regularly scheduled council meetings due to the Thanksgiving holiday and the Christmas holiday, and otherwise provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2019 general fund operating expenditure budget, legal services department, and the economic development tourism department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Start with a resolution relative to the director and parish president making a grant application for the funding to replace asbestos water line between White Ditch and Phoenix. White Ditch to Phoenix, and to provide related matters. An ordinance to amend as amended to readopt Plaquemine Parish Code of Ordinance, Chapter 12.5 Grant and Aid Annual Set Aside Ordinance Number 448, Number 498, Number 511, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan drainage pump repair project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Ordinance approving a plan for re-subdivision of property described as lot 1-C-1-A and 2-C-1-A into lot C-1-C-1A-1 and 2-C-1-A-2, Section 4, T14S, R12E by Keith L. Rambert, survey dated April 25th, 2019, revised September 23rd, 2019. The owner has fulfilled all the requirement of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemine without cost to the Plaquemine Parish government, otherwise the parish of Plaquemine, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to plan the re-subdivision of the property. Okay, that's it. I thought that did.
Mr. Kokrovich.
A resolution electing the chairperson of Plaquemines Parish Council for the year 2020 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Ms. Newberry.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 Public Health Fund operating expenditure budget, Health Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Is that all? Mr. Albro.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 Library Services Fund operating expenditure budget, Library's General Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Blank.
A resolution approving an agreement with the South Central Planning and Development Commission for Ascension, Assumption, Iberville, Iberia, Jefferson, Plaquemines Lafourche, Orleans, Point Capiz, St. Charles, St. James, St. John the Baptist, St. Martin, St. Mary, Terrebonne, and West Baton Rouge, the South Central Planning and Development Commission for the purpose of applying for grant funding and acting in support of watershed region management activities and in conjunction with the state of Louisiana's watershed initiative. A resolution electing the vice chairperson of the Plaquemines Parish Council for the year 2020 and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all.
Mr. LaFrance?
A resolution relative to directing the parish president to investigate the feasibility of using Diamond Park and the LSU Ag property owned by the Plaquemines Parish government as a location for housing workers involved in the construction of Venture Global plant, directing the president to make a report to the council on the feasibility and to provide for related matters. An ordinance by the Plaquemines Parish Council requiring lot owners in Myrtle Grove, Marina Estate, Phase 1 and Phase 2 to maintain a berm, bulkhead, or barrier to a minimum of 2.5 feet above the sea level as determined by NAVD 1988, 2009.55 GI 12A between the water edge and public right-of-way to be contiguous with neighboring lots to prevent flooding from high tides and prevent Plaquemines Parish infrastructure and provide ingress and egress for the residents. That's it.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, a resolution transferring the Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District to the Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District, the operational authority and financial responsibility of the ferries currently operated by the Plaquemines Parish government, and provide for the grant of use and charge of all property, vessels, equipment of the Plaquemines Parish Ferry Department to the Plaquemines Port Harbor Terminal District, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Blank?
One more. A resolution approving an agreement with the Regional Planning Commission for Jefferson, Orleans, Plaquemines, St. Bernard, St. Charles, St. John the Baptist, St. Tammany, and Tangipahoa Parish, the Regional Planning Commission, for the purpose of applying for grant funding and acting in support of watershed region management activities in conjunction with the State of Louisiana Watershed Initiative.
All right, thank you. Any further? All right, with none, let's move to item 9C, please. I'd like to get the fire chief back to work.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 manpower structure and operating revenue and expenditure budgets to accept a donation from the Point of Lahash Volunteer Fire Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Bartholomew.
No, that's not, I'm sorry.
What is it?
Which one did you want? All right, we'll go with it then. Mr. Bartholomew offered, who second?
I second it.
Mr. LaFrance, second. Any questions, Mr. Bartholomew, comments? Ms. Newberry?
Yes, this is a donation to, from the Point Lahash Fire Department. I'm not sure if this is a good ordinance right now. The Volunteer Fire Department is under a audit. So my recommendation is to not carry this forward because until the audit is complete. So that's my recommendation.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Doesn't have anything to do with the audit. All it is just providing a supervisor for the weight room that we don't do because it's out of the realm of the summer recreational program. So I don't see what that has to do with any audit. That's just my comment.
Mr. Appley, does that fall under recreation?
I don't know anything about it.
I mean, you are over the director of recreation, right?
Yes, I'm the Director of Recreation. I don't know anything about this position or what's being done here.
All right, I mean, because I'm reading line 4, it says, whereas a review of the manpower needs of the Recreation Department, it has been recommended to create and fund a a part-time unclassified weight room supervisor. So my question is if you're the head of that particular department,
Didn't come from me.
okay? All right, Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, the only thing we did was because we didn't have an agreement at the time to do that with the CEA from the parish when the fire department did the summer recreation. And since we moved out, and that is just to cover it for 3 months till the next fiscal year. Now, whatever happened after the budget, during the budget cycle, if it's not funded, it's not funded. But I'm just saying, and then the new CEA agreement that would take place with the government and with the volunteer fire department recreation could include that into it for next fiscal year. We're just trying to continue to provide the service as requested by the citizen on the East Bank, the older citizen, to have access to the weight room for 3 days a week at no expense to the parish. Comes out of the grant money that we already have from the parish, from the fire department, have from the parish.
I think that was Ms. Newberry's concern, which I agree with, is that there's currently an audit of those funds within that department. So we don't even know how much money's left in that fund.
Well, you have the, I don't want to get into that because I don't deal with the audit business. They already deal with that later, but I'm just asking, we're just asking based on the resident permission to have it, and then they assign somebody to it, or the parish itself can do its CEA with the fire department, giving them the permission to do that, to maintain the weight room. Now, they can do that now. But the simplest way is just to put the money in the operational budget and let the parish department hire somebody part-time and get it for 2 months, 3 months, whatever.
Mr. Kognovich?
Is there somebody in the building now that oversees people going in the weight room?
There's a custodian in the building every day.
I don't know if do they know anything about weightlifting, or could they go get some weights off of a person if something happened, or?
No, they do not know anything about weightlifting, I wouldn't imagine. They're not trained to be there as a personal trainer. They're trained to be there to maintain the building.
Go ahead, Mr. John. Go ahead.
See, yesterday, the volunteer fire department members said they would be willing to facilitate that as well. But I told them I can't give them no permission to do that. That would have to come from the administration and giving them permission to do it. But in order for them to have somebody so that the people can use it, the easiest way, as far as I'm concerned, is to get get the firemen to grant some of the money that we already have to cover that expense. We have to pay for it anyway, so why not pay for it now and get it started till the end of the fiscal year? And if at the budget hearing, if it's not funded by the parish council, then it's not funded. So that's all I'm saying.
Ms. Newberry?
Is there anyone that can tell me how much is in that fund? I mean, there's
I
enough
can
money.
tell you this, that the papers have been ready to turn over to the auditor, but he said he won't be back till November the 4th.
He is on vacation.
I'm just saying, that's what he told him when he wanted to bring it over to him on yesterday or day before. Mr. Brock is in the audience if you want a question, and he can tell you more about that.
Come on up, Mr. Brock.
But that takes away from what's on the agenda. That has nothing to do with the question at hand. Yeah, and he can come talk later, but the question is at hand, and what we want to do with that. Kill it or not kill it, that's up to us.
Well, no, I think her question is relevant because.
It's not relevant to the question. The question is relevant on the agenda item.
We're
It's
trying
not
to,
part of
right,
the
well,
agenda
it
item.
is. We're trying to move $8,200 from an account to another account.
Yeah.
And we don't know how much money's in the account we're trying to move it from.
Well, if it's not there, you can't move it. Right?
Well, that's called a misappropriation of funds, and that's
Yeah, that's
actually a
right, that's
crime.
right.
So if we do try to move money that we know is not there, then we're committing a violation.
No. Call for the question. All right, I withdraw it.
I'd like to recognize this when we get to me.
Go ahead.
Hold on one second.
Because that don't make sense to me.
Go ahead, Mr. Russo.
Am I on?
Yes.
Let's clarify the situation. Mr. Bartholomew, it's my understanding that you're trying to find a way to have some type of oversight over the weight room in the Davian Community Center. And the fire department now is paying someone to do that?
No, we're not paying because we don't have no agreement to do it. Other than the summertime, we do that. So we need permission to do that.
But let me ask you this, could the fire department supervise that if they made an agreement with the administration for access to the building without having to do this position?
Sure.
So is there any way that you can work with the fire department to accommodate this without having to go through this funding source and create a position and do all of this? I mean, the community residents, you need to find a way to work that out.
We can certainly sit down with the fire department and see if there's something that we can work out. It's just not something that's been asked of us to this point.
So I would
I'll
hope that.
withdraw it.
Withdraw it, and then we'll get to the audit in a little bit.
All right, that item,
Ross, would you withdraw your second?
second withdrawn, Mr. Bartholomew has withdrawn item C, and my fault for moving to the wrong item. What item, Mr. Butcher? K? All right, let's move to item K.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 firefighting fund operating expenditure budget, firefighting departments, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilman Black.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Albro. Administration, you guys want to clarify what this is about?
This is about moving some money within the fire department to pay for repair costs to vehicles that have been exorbitant lately.
All right, thank you. Any questions, comments from the table? Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, what are the vehicles are used for?
Fire trucks, sir.
I'm sorry?
Fire trucks.
Fire trucks? Okay.
Any other questions, comments? All right, from the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open on K. It passes 9-0. Thank you, Chief. All right, let's get back to the items 9. Any other employee, Mr. Lapine, that you need to get out of here? That's on the agenda? I don't see anything else on the agenda. All right, let's, well, we want to, at Mr. Russel's request, we're going to go to 9N first. Yeah. All right, 9N, and then we'll go to J afterwards.
A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president to take any and all actions necessary, including the initiation of civil legal proceedings against Point Elahash Volunteer Fire Department to ensure that grants made by Plaquemines Parish government to the Point Elahash Volunteer Fire Department have and continue to be expensed in conformity with Article 7, Section 114 of the Constitution of the State of Louisiana. Councilmember Newberry.
Ms. Newberry, you offer?
I'm going to offer this up for discussion.
Offer for discussion. Get a second. Second by Mr. Blank. Ms. Newberry?
As a member of the audit committee, back in September, the committee decided to move forward with an audit on the volunteer fire department. The audit committee meets once a month. The first council meeting of the month is usually in Belle Chase. So Mr. Duke has continued the audit and has realized that all the fire departments does not receive grants from Plaquemines Parish. Their income is solely based on membership, donations, fundraisers. The only volunteer fire department that received a parish grant was the Point Lahash. So before the October meeting, we scoped it down. The committee scoped it down to the auditing the Point Lahash Volunteer Fire Department. Prior to that October meeting, after speaking with Mr. Duke, our internal auditor, said he wasn't getting cooperation, so I consulted with our counsel, our legal counsel, in order to get someone to be very productive in internal audits. We could actually pass the ordinance saying that we would do an injunction. I said I'll introduce it. If they comply and be productive with Mr. Duke, then I would withdraw it. As of right now, according to Mr. Duke, they have not been productive. Now, this has been going on for a month. So I'm opening for discussion of the board and see if we want to continue to roll with this or see where we can go from here.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, thank you, Ms. Newberry, for your effort in trying to accomplish the record production. However, I think this is premature, seeking legal proceedings, and I would hope that the parish president's office would actually communicate with the volunteer fire departments prior to recommending that we go and sue them. The communication has been very poor, and to take an action like this is very premature because we have the chief in the audience now. My recollection of what is going on now is that, first of all, this was a total surprise to me because when we had the audit committee that morning, I had the understanding that we were going to move forward with trying to obtain the documents. So to make a long story short, I reached out to the fire chief and asked him to produce the documents. He has produced the documents. He has come to the office several times, and I'd like him to explain his position. But in the future, I would hope that we'd have some communication between the departments, even though they are volunteer fire departments, before we jump to this. So I'd ask Mr. Brock to come up and give us where we're at with this.
Chief, just state your name and your position, please.
My name is Clarence Brooks, and I live in Phoenix, Louisiana. My address is 156 Crossover Lane. I'm the fire chief of the Parnassus Volunteer Fire Department. You want me to start from the beginning? Is how it all started? I got a telephone call from the audit committee. I don't want to call the guy name. The guy who was in charge of the audit committee. I just want to say the department. So I got a call from the department, and I was told that they want to audit the Parnassus Volunteer Fire Department. I said, we have no problem with that because we haven't received money from the parish government since before Katrina. I think we used to get $3,000 every year. So I said, we don't do no fundraisers or anything like that. So last time we had a fundraiser was in 2005. So we don't have that much money. We have a few dollars that we use for funerals of firemen. But past we buy stuff for the family, for drinks and stuff. So we don't have a whole lot of money. We was giving donations to a graduate from Phoenix High School. We couldn't afford that. So I know audit wasn't gonna be hard for us because we don't have that much money. Matter of fact, all the donations that come to the fire department, like graduation from to a student from Phoenix High School, it come out of my pocket. I give $300 grant, donation every year to a graduate. I say I give a back to school funds or back to school. I call it a back to school splash. We get the kids to come to the swimming pool. I pay for every kid that jump in that swimming pool, and I buy enough hamburgers, hot dogs, all this stuff like that for 100 kids, and I buy $100 worth of school supplies. All that come out of my pocket. And you try that and see how much that's gonna cost. And the audit committee called me and said, and I thought they was talking about Parnassus. That's why I said we don't have the money. So he told me it was the $50,000 we get every year. I said, oh, I have no problem with that. I said, because I saw all the records stacked with that thick in one of the files. The secretary take care of all that. But right, I'm just a name or what I did for the recreation. I will go take the time sheets to make sure everybody get the time sheets are signed. So I haven't wrote a check for the fire department in over 20 years. But what the audit committee, told me, I said, I got everything. I'll be able to get everything because I saw it in the file cabinet. And he told me to take my time, get everything together, and bring it over to me. He said, he'll get back with me. And that was the secret word, the man word, the focal point, when he said he'll get back with me. When I wrote his name, number down, I wrote it on a piece of 2x4 because I was doing some carpenter work. I wrote his name and the number down. And trust me, that piece of wood probably nailed to the project I was doing. So when he said he's gonna get back in touch with me, I didn't worry about his number or name. And so when the meeting came up saying that one of the council members called me and said I need to call the audit committee, and he told me whenever I call him back again to see what they did, because they said they were talking about subpoena me. I said, subpoena? That don't make no sense. So I called him and I asked, he said, he can't get in touch with me. I said, what number you was calling? He told me that he lost my number. I said, how you calling me? You lost my number. So then he said he been trying to send me an email. I said, I don't even own email. I got a flip phone. So he said, well, we need to get this stuff straight. He said he needs all my files and stuff. I said, I got my file. I got everything. The first day that you called me, I called the secretary. He gave me all the information, but it was in a big old stack. It wasn't in order. And you told me to get everything in order, you're going to get back with me. So I was sitting there waiting for him. When October came, that's when I saw the write-up in the paper and the Gazette, and also the write-up in the Gazette. And I was saying, this is not true. I said, if they asked me for anything, we willing to give it. The reason why we're willing to give it, because we got everything we do. Whenever we do anything, we buy or purchase anything with the $50,000, first thing we do, we get a requisition from Mr. Bartholomew's office saying we got to buy this. And when we buy it, the secretary and the president sign the check, and I will go deliver the check. That's the only time I mess with the check. I make sure we deliver because I didn't want the secretary and the treasurer doing all of it because that's not the way you do business. So we turn all the work that we do for the fire department is all volunteer because that's what we want to do for the East Bank. Because if we don't do it, a lot of time it won't get done. So it's like for the weight room. Several people say they want to go to the weight room, but it ain't gonna happen. I say, well, Parish got to hire somebody to do it. I say, if they don't hire nobody, we'll do it. We help. We're gonna help. It come down to the senior citizens and the children on this East Bank. The Parnell Heights Fire Department will help. Because somebody helped me when I was coming up, and I'm doing very well. I don't need no assistance from nobody. So that's why I want to help somebody else. So the amount of money that goes through that we have in the fund, from what I was told, another organization was running this program before us. And when they stopped, they were going to stop the programs. And that's why I say, hey, we'll help. They asked us, will we help? We said, yes, we will. And we're doing it with half of the money that they did, and we have money turned over. And every penny is accounted for. We got all the check statements. We had to go to the bank and do our own audit. Go to the bank and get every check that was made. So you got, and we got every statement for everything that was. We got everything. But we put it in order. 2016 is one folder all by itself. 2017 is one folder all by itself. 2018 all by itself, and 2019 is all by itself. But we've been trying to turn this over to the audit department. We set up a date. We went over there to the office. And we got in the office. He wouldn't prepare for us. He said he could not make no copies, and he said his copy machine was down. And I said, can I see the numbers that you been calling me by? I said, I don't have an email address. That's out of question. He told me that he lost my number because he didn't want to show it to me. He couldn't show it to me. So I said, can I see the emails? he says the email, he said the computer's down. So he couldn't show me the email that he was calling me on. Then he told me he got my wife's email. And his name is the same name of one of the firemen that's over the fireman in chief meeting. And he told the fireman in chief guy told me he gonna get my email because I missed to the chief and president meeting. So when I saw my wife told me the guy name, I thought it was the chief and president meeting. He emailed my wife, my wife's email address. My wife said if I knew that was the audit guy, I would have never gave it to him. She thought it was one of the chief and president guys. So I didn't know nothing but an email address. Email, and I don't know. He never called me on the phone. So when he called, when one of the councilmen told me to call him, I called him. We set up a date, and I was there. And he wasn't prepared to take my information, and I wasn't gonna leave him with my originals.
Ms. Newberry?
So he made me make all the copies and get all bank statements. Well, that's part of our job, get a statement. Nobody helped us. The Providence Fire Department don't own a copy machine. So we had to go all over trying to get this copies made.
Mr. Brock, thank you so much for coming up here. I can't speak for Mr. Duke, he's not here. I was just consulted by him. I'm on the board, I'm not the internal auditor expert, but, and the reason why I did this, because he had concerns that y'all were not cooperating. So, after listening to your story, what I'll do here is I will defer this until Mr. Duke comes back, and then y'all can figure something out and continue with this audit. When money is granted to a department, it has a right to be audited because it's public money. So that's the reason for that. It's not a target on your back. It's just procedure. So, but I'll go ahead and defer this and make sure. Yeah, I'll let y'all talk. Then we'll make a decision. Yeah. Let Mr. Roussel talk. Mr. Black.
All right, I have a couple questions. So you did speak with Mr. Duke in person at his office?
Yes, we did.
And when was that?
That was last week, Thursday.
And you had all the paperwork with you?
Yes, sir.
And he did not accept it?
He didn't. We had our originals, and he couldn't make no copies. We wasn't leaving our original when we went over there to make copies. We don't have a copy machine.
Were you guys asked to help make copies, Ms. Toops?
No, sir.
He said the ladies, well, he said it another way, but he said the ladies wasn't available. So we were willing to stay that entire day and make copies. That's what we went over there for.
So Mr. Duke refused to accept the requested information is what you're telling us?
Yes, sir.
Okay?
He said the copy machine was down, so.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I know for sure I was not asked. I'd have to double check with Barb, but she never said anything about it, nor did I see.
And has the copy machine been down on your side?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
And it hasn't been down on our side either? Okay.
And also the computer was down, because I wanted to see the number the emails.
So you said Mr. Duke said the computer was down?
Couldn't show me the email because he said the computer was acting up, and the computer was down.
Okay, so that's questions that we'll ask, I'll write down and ask Mr. Duke. That, Mr. Duke, you say Mr. Duke said that the computer was down and that the copy machine was broke.
And
He doesn't have an email.
one more thing, and I'll get down. But after that, we got all the paperwork, everything together. Like I said, organized. It'd be easier for him. And I said, I'm willing. I called him like 3 days in a row. I think it was Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. Called him to give him the papers. When I finally, I wound up calling Mr. Bartholomew. I said, Mr. Bartholomew, I can't get in touch with this guy, but I got everything for him in order. So Mr. Bartholomew called one of the councilmen. One of the councilmen called me, and I told him I'm trying to turn these things in, and he's not available. So the councilman called the auditor, and the auditor called me and told me he's not he can't accept it right then and there because he's going on vacation. He won't be able to see me till the 4th of.
What day was that, yesterday?
I think it was yesterday.
Okay. All right, a couple other questions real quick, and then I'll yield. So you said you had the paperwork ready to turn in. So you should be familiar with how much money is left in that account for 2019?
No, I couldn't tell you none of that because I'm not the secretary. The secretary.
Who is the secretary?
One of the firemen.
Okay, and that's who cuts the checks, keeps the bank ledger?
I'm the president. So that's what do all that. My job is to make sure it be a second party with the checks. I don't let them write the checks and disperse them too. They got to go through me to see where they're going at, so we make sure it's done correctly.
Okay, so where do they go? I mean, where has money been spent?
Money's been for recreation, food, for the last 4 years.
No, just this year.
This year, you want to know everything?
No, I'm just trying to get an idea where the money's going and how much we got left.
I really couldn't tell you. How much?
Well, you see where the checks go to.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, what does it go to? You made any purchases?
It paid for food. Say again?
You made any like major purchases outside of equipment and
You want to know about major purchases? I can tell you about major purchases.
Yeah, what's that?
Well, our most major purchases the parish purchases a train through recreation. It belongs to the parish.
Well, you guys purchased it though, right?
Yeah, we did it.
Okay, so not really the parish, but you guys did.
It belongs to the parish. It don't belong to the Parnell Volunteer Fire Department. It belongs to the parish through recreation. We have funds that added up from the last 4 years, and that's what we was able to buy.
Is that the only vehicle you bought?
No.
You bought all
A vehicle?
Yeah.
I think last year we purchased a school bus so we could have the kids from Breakaway to come down this way.
Okay, and who's that registered to?
That's gonna be I guess the Plaquemine Parish government, not the.
Who'd you purchase the bus from?
I don't know where it comes from. I guess from the school board. I think it was the school board.
But, okay, I just was worried, I'm concerned because you oversee the checks, so you must have reviewed the check, so you know who received the check for the school bus.
Yeah, but that's been over a year ago. I guess it was school board. I know it wasn't me.
And you don't, and it's registered to the parish? Mr. Epley, do you have a record of, I mean, you're the recreation head, and he's saying that it's recreation's school bus and train. Do we own that? All right, Mr. Russo?
It's for recreation.
Let me just say this. We're in the middle of an audit. We are waiting for the records to be delivered. What the fire chief has said is accurate. I'm the council member that he has been communicating with, and I was disappointed to see that when he did show up, that Mr. Duke was not able to walk into the lunchroom and ask Ms. Toops or Ms. Marcotte to make those copies. However, we are where we are today, waiting on Mr. Duke to come back from vacation. And it started with me when I first saw this introduction that Ms. Newberry made, kind of threw me off track because I thought we were making progress in the audit and acquiring the information. The next morning, I got an email from Mr. Duke that said he was putting the audit on the shelf because of lack of cooperation. I went into his office, had a discussion with him, and wasn't very happy about the situation because I thought we were making progress. Went back to my office, contacted the fire department, told them they had to bring the records. We want the documents, the checks, and so forth presented, and they have made an honest effort to do that. Now, I'm not getting involved in the audit itself. Mr. Duke wanted me to go in the meeting with Mr. Brock when he brought that over there, and I refused to go into that meeting because the internal auditor is operating independently, and I'm not going to be part of any influence one way or the other on any audit. So I did not go into the meeting. So Mr. Brock was there and left because Mr. Duke couldn't make the copies. He returned, or at least he called back, wanting to know when he could bring the records. I went into Mr. Duke's office. This was a period of about a week or so later. Mr. Duke said, now. He said, give me his number. I gave him his number. He called him, and then he told him he was going on vacation, just like he told us he was going on vacation and would be back November the 4th. So as I'm sitting here today, it's my understanding that on November the 4th, the records will be brought to Mr. Duke, and he will proceed with the audit and conclude after he has the time to do whatever he's going to do. So that's where it stands as far as I'm concerned, and I'm anxious to see the outcome.
Mr. Blank?
Yes, sir. I just want to say that when anybody calls and wants to do an audit, I mean, that's just deadly serious, and you should, definitely, make sure that's a priority. And if there's any kind of situation where somebody just simply needs copies made, I mean, I've, have equipment and personnel, and a lot of other offices do too, and we need to make sure that nothing like that ever happens again. Yield.
Yeah, that's my last comment. This is based on what Mr. Russo just said. He made the comment that the internal auditor operates independently. However, you've been in contact with Mr. Russo throughout this whole process, correct?
Off and on, yes.
Okay, so I'm not sure how that's independent, that the internal auditor is actually doing an investigation and a council member is having direct conversations with you. I mean, you're privy to, I don't even want to get into this anymore. I mean, Mr. Russo, I mean, there's an investigation going on. It's been for a couple months now. For some reason, the records have not been produced to the internal auditor, who you even said is conducting an independent audit.
That's right.
You, though, have interjected, and have contacted the auditee multiple times. So I'm not sure how that's independent, how that is an independent audit.
Give me the mic and I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
Turn my mic on.
Hold on well, if you can wait a second. Go ahead.
Am I on? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Black, the way that it is an independent is because my calls to the fire department were strictly to ask them to comply with what the audit committee had requested. As the chairman of the audit committee, I asked Mr. Brock, to provide the records. The independence comes in when I decide not to go into the audit work process, which is what Mr. Brock was involved in when I refused to go into the audit process between him and Mr. Duke. Now, if you don't see the independence there, I can't help you. However, if I wanted to be influential in the audit, I would have sat in the meeting and held his hand and been influential, which I did not do. So I'm telling you, the independence was there, and the effort that I made was strictly as the audit committee chairman to make sure that the auditee produced the documents. That was the extent of the conversation, and Mr. Brock can confirm that or deny it right there. There's my witness, and I don't know what you're trying to infer, Mr. Black, but I'm going to tell you, you're way out of base here.
I'm not trying to infer anything.
There you
I'm just
are.
trying to make the point that having private discussions with the auditee doesn't look too independent for me. And then Mr. Duke, coincidentally, going on vacation at the last minute yesterday until the beginning, the first week of November is somewhat questionable too. But
Let me just say this. I questioned it too, till Ms. Newberry refreshed my memory and said that he had put an announcement out that he was going on vacation. So I don't know what you're trying to do here. I wish you would have had that much concern when we audited the port.
and the port went through an audit. And
They were found to be unconstitutionally illegal using the credit card, but you never said a comment about it till just now. So we play this game here today, go right ahead.
not a game.
Yes, it is to
Mr.
you.
Kognovich?
Brock, I'd just like to thank you and the other volunteer firemen for all they do for the parish.
Trust me, we do a lot for the senior citizens and the kids, and we're gonna continue on doing it. If the parish don't support us with it, we're gonna still do it. We come out of our pocket. Houses caught a fire, the firemen go in and repair these people's houses.
Ms. Newberry?
Mr. Brock, thank you so much for taking your time to come here today. Evidently, we've had some communication issues between you and our internal auditor. I am going to defer this to make sure we have the cooperation of the volunteer fire department. And if the cooperation and everything gets settled before the next council meeting, then I'll withdraw it. Thank you.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Mr. Bartholomew, you had something?
Yeah, I think we owe the Palo Alto Volunteer Fire Department, especially Mr. Brock, an apology. I was assuming that they did not comply with the request of the auditor, and they did. And we jumped the gun because you didn't know what was going on. We didn't know what was going on at the time, and that's totally out of the norm to say what was said in the Gazette and to say the things that is said today, that he's not putting forth an effort to comply with the request of the auditor. And he has. On several occasions, he's been over here, to, just as he stated, to turn over stuff to the auditor up front. So to me, if that's not being in compliance or being cooperative, what is it? Compared to what is being said today. He's not, they are not, they are. They are cooperative, very cooperative. And Mr. Brock, I want to apologize myself as a council member for having that attitude, knowing that, and know you as a person, how you stand up to your character, what it stands for as commitment to making sure things work in the right way. And I want to thank you for your efforts throughout the years that you have done for the people on the East Bank.
Thank you, Mr.
That's all,
Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Newberry.
Mr. Bartholomew, I have great respect for Mr. Duke, and I was,
I'm just telling you what they're accusing him of.
well, I'm not accusing him of that.
They're not being compliant, they are.
Well, I have, Mr. Duke told me they was not in
Well-
compliance, so I was doing my due diligence to the parish.
But why you didn't call them? Try to figure out what the fire department.
Because I
due
was not
diligence.
getting involved between Mr. Duke and Mr. Brock.
Oh, so you take Mr. Duke word and hear what he says today is totally contrary to what Mr. Duke was saying.
Mr. Duke
Right.
was highly recommended.
I'm not saying all that. I understand that. I don't have nothing against Mr. Duke either. Personally, I don't.
You're
Procedures and
accusing me of
protocol
something,
was
Mr.
being
Bartholomew.
I'm finished.
Ms. Newberry.
Ms. Newberry.
Now, say something else. Ms. Newberry, trust me, when you put that paper, stuff in the paper, you think my name was taken down. 90%, over 30 people called me and say, we know you're not going to take nothing from nobody. We know you're not hiding from nobody. You do everything by the book. And that's what I do, by the book. So that's why we're not worried about nothing, because we got everything. The secretary did real good work. Every time we made a payment on anything, it might be wrong by buying certain things because we didn't ask permission, but we had the money and we wanted it for the kids. Now, if y'all want to take it and resell it or take it back, whatever you want, you got to do it legally. So we don't. A lot of times we're gonna do things that we don't know that is not right for the council concerned, but for the taking care of the kids and the community on this East Bank. And y'all will be glad we do a lot of these things because y'all don't have to do them. And sometimes y'all not doing them, so we doing it. We taking care of this East Bank. And we're going to continue on doing it.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Yes, the agreement with the CEA, with the all administration was implemented. And it was asked the question, to what extent do we utilize the fund? And it was said, according to the lawyer that did it, he said that we can, anything that has an impact on students, or on recreation, for the students, for the children that we serve, you can do that.
All right, thank you. Are you withdrawing J, 10J? This was the same time, I don't know. Yeah, it's on you. It's the last page.
All right, thank y'all.
Yeah.
All right, I just defer that, I'll do withdraw it. All right. Yeah, defer J. Oh, withdraw 10J? Okay, right. Yeah, and then all right, and then Ms. Newberry is deferring in. All right. All right, back to 9A1.
An ordinance to rescind annual and set aside ordinance number 403, adopted December 8th, 1982. Rescind annual and set aside section 6 and section 7 of ordinance number 40, adopted April 9th, 1964. Establish Article 9 to be titled Mosquito Control of Chapter 13 of the Parish Code of Ordinances. Establish a user fee for mosquito control in order to continue to abate, control, eradicate, and study mosquitoes and other arthropods of public health importance in all activities incidental thereto, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilman Blink.
To offer for discussion only.
Mr. Blank offers, ask for a second. Second, Mr. Kokavich. Mr. Blank?
Yes, sir. I have a new proposed legislation that would be $5 across the board. It would bring in a little bit more than $500,000 a year, which doesn't cover the entirety of the mosquito control department. I'm wondering if this is a little bit more palatable to my colleagues. I request some assistance from the administration on letting the public know just where we're at with the budget and with our looming financial crisis. I'm doing this in good faith to take care of some of the budgetary issues coming up, but I need help from my colleagues in order for the public to just know that we're facing a $7 million cliff up ahead. I'd request a little bit of help, just sort of painting a picture for the public to let them know.
Got a key in, if you want to talk. Go ahead, Ronnie.
On.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Blank, today we will present the budget that you will get firsthand. We have been through this. We have been through it several months ago when we tried to pass some legislation of increasing fees, increasing permit fees, increasing millages. We are in a tight crunch, and we have done our duty. You will get the budget as of today. We presented a balanced budget to you. We asked for you to review it, and we're doing everything on our part.
Sure, I was thinking a little bit something more public facing. I mean, we are all aware of the budget here in this room. This is what we do daily. But just getting that complicated message out. This is the budget. It's very thick, it's very complicated, and it's hard for the average resident in Plaquemines to understand. And getting that very complicated message across in a simple way to the average resident that we're in a bit of a bind, we're trying to do everything we can, there may be some tough decisions ahead, we might have to tighten the belt a bit, but we're doing it in good faith because we're bound by the numbers in this document. A lot of folks on the street, are just, they're coming up, look, you're just passing these fees, y'all aren't, managing things right. And the thing is, I feel like we're trying to get better, we're finding efficiencies all the time, and things are getting much better just in a short amount of time. But the budgetary numbers, figuring out a way to kind of distill those, to boil those down to a one-pager almost, to where the average citizen could understand this is why this is happening. Please bear with us until there's other revenue rolling in.
Well, I mean, that can be discussed in November 12th and 13th budget hearings, Mr. And we encourage the public to be there too.
Sure, certainly.
The short answer is, without the BP money for the next 2 years, in 2 years from now, you're looking at an $11 million deficit. So this council is going to have to cut the budget by $11 million. And so I think what's being proposed are gradual increases to try to save those types of services the public come to rely on. Ever since that ad ran in the Gazette, there were multiple people contacted me and said, God, we got to, the mosquitoes were killing me this weekend. We got to keep this service alive. Mm-hmm. So I think this is an opportunity to slowly, gradually add fees. The government has been subsidized by oil and gas for the last 6 decades. I don't know, maybe since the parish has been in existence. those numbers have declined substantially, I think to the tune of $40 million. And so what we're looking at without the BP funds in 2 years is an $11 million deficit. You're going to be looking at getting rid of a lot more than a mosquito control. And so that's your one pager.
Again, we all are aware of that in here. The average person on the street, maybe there's something that could go out to them to kind of paint that picture. Where we're trying to, they're fully aware that we're trying to save mosquito control. And to be clear, this legislation would set it up as an enterprise fund to where as long as people are paying their water bill, we're going to have it. Because it is, I find, an essential service when we're living in a drain swamp. Getting that complicated message out, we're going to need some help with. Or else, we're not going to be able to get these things done to keep the government funded at the adequate level. Thank y'all. Appreciate it.
Got a whole list here. Yeah. Mr. Kidovich?
Yeah, I'd like to find a different place to get money from, because putting it on the water bill, you're only getting the people who have water meters. You got a lot of properties out there that nobody's on, people own, and that's where most of your mosquitoes are gonna grow. Pits, let's go after everybody, to pay for the mosquito control.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, I appreciate your comments, Mr. Bures. One factor you left out is the debt that we pay.
Sorry,
One factor that you left out is the debt that we pay, of the over $8 million in debt. If we would not have that debt, we would be able to survive on what we have. But the point I'm going to bring up right now is that I voted for the permit increases. And believe me, when I went in the community, I heard about it because there was no formal notice. The guy went to get a permit at the permit office, and he says, I can't believe it, doubled on me. I didn't know anything about it, didn't know it was coming. So I think the point that Mr. Blank is making is that we need to get out in front of this, because my concern is we can nickel and dime the public to death. But when the real money is needed, we will not have the confidence of the public to pass anything. And to put these nickel and dimes on the water bill, and you go to the public and ask for a millage for levies and where the real money is, because these are not gonna balance the budget. We're gonna get a little inch closer, but that's not what we really need, and you know it, and everybody sitting up here knows it. So I think that you need to redevelop a plan to approach this from a different angle before we lose credibility with the public by nickel and diming them, and I'll leave it at that.
Ms. Newberry?
I don't see anything wrong with putting this on the water bill. A lot of parishes do it. I think this will help the budget. We do need to figure out where the spending's going and what we have to take control of and understand what's going on, and I think we all do. So I'm going to support Richie's ordinance, putting the mosquito control on the water bill. Now, how much? That's a different story. So it's up for discussion, so we can continue with the discussion if you want. Is the $9 just going to cover the deficit, or is what's $5 going to do? So, we have to make that decision, so I yield.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I think just the beginning. So I honestly believe whatever we have to do with comprehensive nature. And we need to involve the public. And this thing needs to go to the public people up front. The whole 9 yards, not piecemealing it, everything that needs to be adjusted for this council or the government to survive and to provide infrastructures for the people of Blackman Parish as a whole. And I applaud Mr. Blank with his efforts, but that's not the aggressive one to the point that it's addressing everybody. Because you have some departments, trailer sites, subdivision that has 1 meter. So that means the rest of them that's enjoying the service won't pay anything, only that 1 meter. And that meter is just the water bill, or it's included the whole everything, sewage and all. You see, the $10 is for that everything, because it's going on the water bill, and that is the water bill. So, but anyway, to me, that we need to go out to the public and have the public address all of our needs, and stop playing and piecemealing this. Then next 2-3 months from now, we come up with something else. Then it's something else. We know we got a problem with recreation. We know we have problem with drainage. We have problem with prom. We have problem with heavy equipment operators. I mean, all those things exist. So what degree are we going to do to accommodate those infrastructures that is so much needed to maintain service to the people in Blackman Parish? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Bartholomew? Yeah, I have a couple comments. So there's two issues that I just heard. One is that we're not getting information out to the public and that we're not letting the public be involved. That's the first one. The second one is that the administration somehow hasn't done anything to come up with solutions. Both of those things are false. I want to commend the administration for what you guys did 6 months ago and worked since day number one when you got into office to come up with a solution, which was Ms. Toops.
I'm sorry.
Y'all finish? Is it urgent? The first one was that y'all developed a plan to have 5 mills for the things that Mr. Bartholomew just talked about to address that issue, 1 mill to address another issue we talked about was recreation, and then another 3 mills, a total of 8 mills. You came up with a solution, and it wasn't just to impose a tax on the public, and that's where I get to the public section of it, is that you put it on the agenda and posted it in the Gazette as it should have been to allow the public to see it, and not for us to make a decision to impose a tax, but to actually let the public vote on whether or not we should have a tax to pay for these services. And we did a survey. So we have multiple things that y'all have done. Y'all have done that and come up with some solutions and tried to give the public the opportunity to vote on it. And guess what happened? We couldn't get a second on the council to even let the public vote to decide. So when we talk about not getting the public involved or you guys haven't done anything to try to come up with good solutions, that's totally false. Because we haven't let the public even have a chance to voice that opinion. You know, out of all of those things, the only thing that's on the ballot is the issue with the off-track betting. That's all I have. Ms. Newberry?
I'm sorry.
You want to hit it?
Mr. Blank? Hold on,
I
sorry.
wanna correct-
Give me 1 second. Okay.
I want to make a brief correction. Nobody offered it to be voted on.
No, I did. I offered every one of them. I asked for a second, I asked for a second, I asked for a second. It failed for a lack of second.
Okay,
I did every one of them.
Correct. All right. So look, all I'm asking for is just a one pager, you know? And my office created one of those for the ferry. We created a graphic to show what the ferry costs to operate and what we collect. It was super straightforward. It was taking a very complicated issue and distilling it down to, you know, a meme, something that the average citizen could kind of grit their teeth on and understand. And, you know, that's all I'm asking for with this, you know, something to show the cliff, the projected budget in a one-page thing that the average resident can sort of grit their teeth on to why they know these things are sort of coming up. And I'm sorry, I don't want to come at y'all. I just need some help here, you know, to get that broad public support to get through the belt tightening that's coming up, that kind of thing. We all get it. We all know. You know, we're in it every day, up to our eyeballs in it. But the average person on the street, you know, who's been enjoying free mosquito control for 50 years, they might not understand just the predicament. They don't understand that we own 100,000 acres of formerly oil-producing lands that just aren't anymore. That kind of thing. Anyway, thank you. I yield.
Mr.
First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. Black, for your comments. The administration has worked with the council. I mean, Dr. Gui came to us with the whole survey idea. It's something he wanted to put out there that the Gazette did. We didn't turn him down on that. We've been working with the council to come up with ideas and solutions. And so, you know, I think up to this point, we've had a pretty great working relationship. I mean, we're, you know, the Gazette has run multiple articles. Just several years ago, you had over 200 employees laid off. You don't think those employees went out into the public and told them, hey, I'm laid off. I got laid off because of the deficits we face. So I just have to push back a little bit. I think there have probably not been tens of dozens, probably in the last 3 or 4 years, there have been probably over 100 articles written in the Gazette about our concerns, about our problems. These meetings are public meetings. They're open to the public. Anyone and everyone is welcome to come here. All the ordinances that are produced, both by the council and by the administration, are published in the Gazette. The parish president door is open 24/7. We're all here. And so, we're trying to work with you all as best we can to come up with some loose solutions. But at the end of the day, 2 years from now, when there's an $11 million deficit, it's the council. Sure, we're going to have to present to you a balanced budget, and it's not going to look good. But at the end of the day, it's the council who's going to have to decide what departments are going to remain in existence and which aren't. And so, we're here. Our door is open. We did the survey. The Gazette's run multiple articles. Parish president doors open. I'm not sure what else we can do. If the council wants to have public hearings or public meetings, we're open for that. As Mr. Black said, we wanted to put this to the people. Let the people vote on it. And like he said, there wasn't a second. That wasn't the council imposing taxes on the people. That was the people deciding for themselves. So I just have to push back a little bit. I think the administration has been very proactive on this, and hopefully we can continue to work together to solve the problems because they're not getting any better.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, I look forward to the budget hearing, and it's going to be interesting to see what the administration has presented to us today. I look forward to looking at that. And I don't see that there's any room to be adding things to the budget, so, I hope that we don't, at the last minute, try to use reserved funds, if you haven't already reused them, and try to make a run.
I don't know what happened. Hold on. Commissioner, go ahead, you back on.
Make a run on what's left. Now, back to the introduction of the millages. The first millage that popped up didn't get a second. Not all millages were popped up and asked for a second. So, some people folded their tent and went home and decided that they didn't get the first one off the box, and that was it, got angry. Because I was prepared to put the five mills on the ballot that day, didn't get a chance to vote on it, didn't get a chance to second on it either. So, I don't think it's fair to be saying that the council did not second all of those proposals. Didn't second. I wouldn't have seconded the first one to begin with because it was the ferry. And I'm not interested in putting a millage on the public for the ferry. You know where my position is. So I'm going to yield, and that's my position.
I just want to clarify for the record, I'll send a copy of the transcript out, but I sat right here and I read every millage proposal, every one of them, and asked for a second on each one of them individually. Individually. I asked for a second.
That's incorrect.
All right. Mr. Lapine, can you do me a favor? Can you have the IT person, Mr. Gelpy, whoever, pull up the transcript from that meeting and send that video clip? Thank you.
Sure.
Mr. Blink?
I didn't mean for this to devolve like this. I just simply.
Wait till budget hearings. You haven't seen anything.
Right. I just simply want to meet people where they're at. And where folks are at, it's not in this room at 1 p.m. on a Thursday. That's not where folks are at. They're on the internet, they're on Facebook, they can consume a one-pager and get the pertinent information out. The Gazette has 2,500 copies that are given out probably. There are 23,000 and some change folks that are living here. The following Monday, down in Happy Lane and Buras, the pile is still as high as it was when they left it there the following Monday. It's just not maybe what people are doing. That's not, it's just their choice, So, anyway, my office will continue to, to do graphics and to get complicated messages out in a one-picture type of format, and we'll handle it. But it's going to take everybody's help with the heavy lifting, and it is a public information issue. It's difficult to get complicated and not the most positive information out to folks. That is a very hard thing to do. I tip my hat at the folks that do it professionally. But again, just, thank y'all. Yield.
Mr. Kokrovich?
That's why Mr. Gui did the ordinance, and we put the deal in the Gazette to see what the people wanted to say. And then I don't remember the date we had to do it by, but we could still get it to a vote of the people.
Mr. Gui, yeah.
Yeah, the date was in February, if I'm not mistaken, is for any millages. And our approach was to actually to try to gain some confidence in the public, to show that we are looking at the issues that need to be attended to and seeing what we can do collectively, so that if and when it came time for a millage, the attitude, hopefully, would have been, well, the government's been trying their best with the little bit of funds they have, and I think that they've done the best they can with what they have, and now they're asking to go to the public. That was kind of the approach that we would collectively taken, and it got us where we are today. Hadn't been too successful at it, but, that was the approach. It was to try to gain some confidence by showing we're trying to get our house in order, and then to go to the public for the millages. So, be that as it may, I'm done.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Lepine.
Mr. Blink, I appreciate your passion. I really do. And I think Mr. Burris was right on the nail on the head when he said we have done everything that we possibly can. And we will be proactive. My question to you is, you want us to give out more information, This has been on since 3 meetings, okay? Is the public outcry so bad that they lined up at the podium saying, no, don't put any money on our water bill? Is that happening? Yes. Okay, 2 people.
Well, I'm gonna tell you.
Okay.
Let me, because Mr. Blink made a good comment, and we're looking at asking in the public, at 1:30, what are people doing? They're probably at work. We've asked this council multiple times, we never got it passed to change the time of the council meetings. I look out in the public, Mr. Guerra and Mr. Lawrence, are the only 2 people that are from the public. Everybody else, yeah, they live here, but they're all here because they actually were working for the government in some capacity, or they working for some company. So we literally have 2 people who are not associated at all with the government who live here. So, I mean, that's something you brought up, and I totally agree with you, Mr. Blank.
I could introduce him something next week.
All right, Mr. Lepine, sorry.
I'm sorry. Well, I just want to finish and clarify, Mr. Blank. With your substitute, with the $5, the administration stands with you.
Got it. Thank you for clarifying your position. Do y'all want to call a question?
It's second for discussion. But you can do whatever, How you wish to proceed?
Yeah, I'm going to offer with changes.
Seconds removed.
Oh, hold on. Can we hear from the public first?
Yeah, sure, come on. Everybody, any comments from the public?
Hi, Mark Guerra, 3321 English Turn Road, Braithwaite, and 2731 Highway 39, Braithwaite. Own properties on both highways. Concerned citizen about everything y'all talking about. That's why I'm here today. Just like you don't agree, this one don't agree, this one don't agree on villages or the millage for the fire department passed. We have in Braithwaite 0 fire department. So it doesn't have a bad taste to have another millage that is passed on the East Bank. So that's the problem with the millage. You heard it here, the volunteer fire department's having problems with funding. Y'all dealing with all the funding, understand? I'm on the agenda today to speak about water lines, everything. Y'all covering pretty much everything. So I really, now is my opportunity. Y'all doing a great job for what y'all inherited. Everybody inherited the problem here. And a millage, no. More money for the ferry? No, that's always broke. All of this is gonna leave a bad taste in everybody's mouth. Citizens-wise, y'all citizens, everybody's citizens. We all basically on the same page. If more stuff was done to critique the money that is being spent that I'm seeing that's wasted. Ferry department, not collecting from certain people, should be collecting. That's something on the ferry that I've seen multiple times in 1 week. Operators not doing their job, nobody's watching over them. That's more money being wasted, machinery just left running. You can do the math, they're just leaving burning diesel and so forth, so forth. They have plenty expenditures that's being overlooked by the council, by the government. And I don't want to be the rat of the East Bank, but people come to me and stop on my shop. I'm a business owner, have a couple businesses, produce business and a marine mechanics shop. And I pay my taxes, same as everybody else. Y'all inherited it. Y'all need to say how much BP money is, because everybody, oh, they got BP money. Well, not so much for what y'all think, and it has to be spread out over certain items. And not everybody can come in on 1 o'clock, like was said. For as a Gazette, I never read a Gazette in years. I mean, so all of this is new to me. I never read anything in a Gazette. I'm just here today because I knew the council meeting was at 1 o'clock on a Thursday that nobody can meet. And everybody else, I guess, puts me up to come up here and talk. So that's all I wanted to say. So just get it out there some more so that way make me a little easier.
Where are you at on protecting mosquito control department by putting $5 in the water bill?
You said that for 50 years we've been getting free mosquito control.
It's not free. It's almost $1 million a year.
I understand, but you're saying I'm getting free. I'm not getting anything for free. Do you know how much the truck passes by my house? Once every 2 to 3 weeks if I'm lucky. One truck on the East Bank, one driver.
And I've thought about this a lot. Would you rather not have it?
I'd rather buy my own mosquito control thing and do my own perimeter. It'll probably be more effective as far as drainage. You go in grass this high and it's solid mosquitoes. You can't even walk in grass because of the water on the East Bank is pushed up to the back levee. If you want to call it a levee, but it's pushed up to the back levee because of the east winds. And so the mosquitoes in turn come onto the land. Did you not, like you said, we're in a bowl, we're in a swamp, no doubt. But I spend probably close to $800 to $1,000 a year on mosquito control myself. So I can bear it around my shop. I don't come and complain about, but now you're looking to put $5 more on my water bill that I'm already paying for brown water anyway in Braithwaite. So it's not a good taste either. So, I mean, you can go around in this vicious circle all the time. But I know y'all trying. And I hate to be the squeaky wheel because I'm not getting grease because you can't afford it. So.
Well, Mark, we really appreciate you coming up here. It's hard trying to milk a turnip, I mean,
Yes.
Here it is. We're trying to keep.
I'm a farmer. I know.
Trying to keep government at funded at a level that people are comfortable with and expect. And
I'm just letting you know.
We're looking at a lot of alternatives. We had a gentleman in D.C., John Helmers, trying to get more
That was another
GoMesa,
thing I
Gulf of
wanted-
Mexico Energy Security Act profit sharing, for lack of a better term, brought home for coastal projects. So I mean, there are different lines that are out there that we're trying to just figure it out. And by all means, if there's any suggestions,
$535 million Louisiana has surplus. Who's lobbying for any of that? For Plaquemines. It's a $30 million rainy day fund, okay, for the state. Does Plaquemines get any since the state made so much over it out of so many years for the oil and rights, gas rights, and no? So it's another vicious circle. That's a lot of money, $500 million. So Plaquemines can't get any of it? None. For commerce, I mean, maybe the port will get it.
Has Representative Garofalo been helpful for you in that regard?
Not if it's anything pertaining he needs for his other dealings.
Got it. All right.
Restaurants, video poker.
Are you,
Mr. Russo?
Thank you for coming, Mr. Guerra. I want you to know that I still have the legislation for the wall for you.
You gave me that last time,
did.
and that was another thing before you called me out in front of council. That's not the meeting I'm talking about. That's easy for you to get, and that's easy for me to get. That's not the one. It's the one where the representatives from St. Bernard Parish called a week after Katrina, not for the council meeting. That's easy to get. Then there's nothing to do. Why would you provide me with something that you did wrong for? Come on, man.
Well, Mr. Guerra, the reason I provided you, because this is the authorization for the wall that you don't want to realize.
We're on the subject of the water rates.
Well,
This is him every time bringing something.
I know, all right.
right,
We're
every
gonna,
time I see you, I'm going to give you a copy of it.
I got a copy.
all right.
I got all that.
Mr. Garrett, Mr. Garrett, don't entertain it. Ms. Newberry?
I have a question. Of course, our parish is surrounded by water. We've always had mosquito problems. Has the administration, or maybe Mr. Blink, has reached out to maybe St. Bernard and other parishes? Do they have their mosquitoes under control? They're using
They
the
have
same chemicals?
They
I
have
mean,
a private company.
and is it efficient? You know, is it efficient? I mean.
They get sprayed more than,
We
I can
previously-
bear it. I own property in
I
St.
was-
Bernard too.
Since I was called out in this, can I?
So, okay, but my question is, if we have to get a private company to come in and spray, and we're gonna charge a lot of money for mosquitoes, then let's do it right.
Mr. Blank?
Sure, I actually reached out to St. Bernard Parish government and asked them about their mosquito privatization program. They have Mosquito Control Inc. over there. There are a couple of differences. They were able to absorb the employees that they once had. What Mosquito Control Inc. does is they take a scientific approach to the problem, as does our mosquito control program. They have traps out on the levee. It's in different places around the community. They go and they check those traps, test for West Nile, those sort of things, very similar to our program.
And that's once a week. They put them on my property in St. Bernard and they have a note on it, and if you find it, don't tamper, but it's once a week.
I shouldn't speak for the administration here, but I've found that the mosquito control department, it seems to be, when I call them or citizens call them, they'll show up. I have been seeing the truck a whole lot. I'm not sure, what happens with larval, these insecticides that are put in the ditches, that kind of thing. But if there is an issue, maybe you could, give them a call and see if you can get some relief, or share your address with
I
the
do.
administration and make sure.
They understand. I'm not the only person that calls.
Is that have y'all looked into that?
Well, yeah, so in a prior administration I worked for, there was tons of studies done on that, and it was brought to the council to privatize mosquito control. We're trying to do a scientific approach. I actually went to Orleans Parish, where they have this huge laboratory with mosquitoes at all different stages of life, et cetera, and they were willing to partner with us to take a more scientific approach on that. Now, I think a lot of folks maybe on the council didn't like the recommendation of the administration, but there was a huge study done. There was lots of time and effort spent on it, and the council rejected it. So there have been prior efforts to do that, and I think the council's main concern was that some of the employees were going to lose their jobs. Although, if I recall right, the new company was actually willing to take on those employees.
Well, I'd hate to see anybody lose their job, but I know the public feels like if they're going to pay for mosquito control, they want to pay for it to be controlled. So I think it's something I'm asking the administration if it's something they can look into, and what would it cost? How much would it cost the public, and how much would it cost on a monthly basis to put it on the water bill? So, we can look into that, just a suggestion.
No. We do have a twin-engine Piper aircraft that is ready to go at all times, that can spray, especially, in the marshes and things like that where the trucks can't get to. From what I understood, there was a quote in the past for Mosquito Control Inc. to spray the entire parish with a very similar aircraft that was about $60,000. The entire airplane is about $250,000. So you could see how really, really quickly the cost of privatizing could get out of hand. We
got a plane, we got a pilot.
No, that's not.
Mr. Black,
Go ahead.
to speak on what Rennie just spoke about privatizing, we did at one time try to privatize. And for fear of losing their jobs, some of the employees felt like they were going to lose their jobs and went and talked to council members. And when we brought it before council, it failed. So that's what happened with that back then. As far as spraying, I receive a log from the mosquito control department from each truck and their routes every week. As a matter of fact, the Braithwaite community was having a community meeting this week, and one of their complaints were that we weren't spraying over there. I pulled the logs for September and October. We have 2 drivers on the East Bank, 2 trucks. Both of those trucks have been out spraying at least 3 to 4 days a week. The logs are at my office. Anybody want a copy? I'll share those logs with you all. We try as soon as we get a complaint, whether, I receive complaints by text, by emails, by telephone calls. As soon as we get them, we try to address them. We try to get a truck out there, the Larvicide crew, to go and check the ditches, treat the ditches. We're trying. The mosquitoes are bad. They're everywhere.
I understand they bad, but I know. Does anybody second the drivers and see who's the supervisor for the drivers and see if they're actually spraying? Or they just can falsify records?
We have trackers on those trucks. Those trucks are out in the areas where they're supposed to be, and they are spraying.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. Y'all keep up the good work. I'll keep listening.
Mr. Bartholomew? Are you, I'm on one.
Just, which,
Richard, you go.
so, what do you think we should do? Seriously,
Put it on the property tax.
all right,
Might be easier.
thank you.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Pay enough of that anyway. What's another $60 a year? The more you got, the more you got to pay.
Got it.
Got it?
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, I think that what the public really want to know is how much, in anything that we do, to increase any kind of taxation, we need to identify the cost of that department to operate. And if there's any increases in that department, that has to be justified, how much more money is needed. Based on what we have now, it's not sufficient. Why it's not sufficient? It's what we're trying to accomplish. So those things have to be separated. That's one, the amount of money we have, and the amount of money is needed for what purpose, to identify the needs, rather than just saying we want money. And I think that's when becomes awareness, then people, I think, will support that more than ever.
If somebody sees failure to do something and lack of, like, supportive spending, they see where it's being wasted, they're gonna have a problem putting out more on a water bill, or putting out, why I'm gonna pay more on a water bill, they can do this and do, save money. So I mean, it's just, like you said, social media, because that never read one in years, Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
As you're coming up, Mr. Lawrence, I just want to, I got a copy of the minutes just to clarify from that meeting. On item 6D, I actually offered, it was read, I offered, Mr. Albro seconded, he then withdrew his second. I asked for another second, read it out 3 times, it failed for lack of a second. Then we moved to item 6E, it was read out, I notified that I would be abstaining and asked if anybody was to offer. I read it out 3 times, nobody offered, it died for lack of an offer. The same thing with 6F, it was read, the ordinance was read out. I said I was abstaining, I asked for anybody else to offer. I asked 3 times again, and it died for the lack of another offer. So that was the reading. Mr. Lawrence?
Yes.
Yeah, so why didn't you just offer then, Mr. Russo? No, I offered it 3 times.
Warren Lawrence, Meadow Grove, and I can't be long, but I just want to say, that I'm fortunate enough to actually come to these meetings. And I've said this before. It's a good thing they don't bring the school kids here and see what in the hell you're doing. It's a shame. We see arguments going 20 minutes about a goddamn audit, excuse me.
Mr. Lawrence.
But anyway, I'm getting back on Mr. Blank. I called Mr. Blank. I've called every councilman, asked them to come to Myrtle Grove. One councilman has come to see our problems. One, Mr. Bartholomew. Well, Mr. LaFrance is my councilman. That's the only one. I asked to spend some time with us. We offered money to repair the streets. He saw the contract. I'm told I gotta put 6 inches of asphalt when there's only 3 inches there. He says, no, you can't do it that way. And I can't get the contractor to do a contract on a public street. We offered to put up $20,000 from the association. You were there. And we can't do it because they want 6 inches. It's pathetic. We went the same thing and says, we will examine the drain lines. We will pay to jet them and video them. I go back. Mr. LaFrance was there. He says, the contractor says, I can't jet them and video them because it's a public line, and the parish has to, I'll pay for it. Well, no, they won't let it be jetted and cleaned because they're afraid if they jet it and clean it, it's going to collapse, and they got to replace it. Mr. Lapine has more than been cooperative. I got to give him that. He sat at my house. He discussed 3 times, you're right, at least 3 times. And we're trying to get solutions. I talked about, I'll get back just to the thing on the water bill. I come up here and I said it's unfair. I don't know how many acres in this parish. That's all I said. Tell me how many acres in the parish that we got to do mosquito control on. Will 10 cents an acre pay for that service? You can't use the water bill. You got a company like Citrus Land, well, no longer Citrus Land. I look at every borrow pit that doesn't have a water meter. Acres and acres of breeding ground, but they're not going to pay a penny. And I don't want to pick on the borrow pits, but there's many of them that, well, what is the acreage we have that we got to control? And what is it going to be? Is it $1 an acre? Is it 10 cents an acre? The same thing with the drainage. How many acres do we drain? How much an acre can we put on an assessment to keep your property drained? What is the biggest area in this parish right now that we drain constantly? You know what it is? The borrow pits. They want them down. They want them dry. Our pumping station. I'm getting off on it. I'll go back to the, I don't feel well, but I come here every chance I get. I miss very few meetings. Mr. Black, when he first went in office, I talked to you, I forget it's at the Barrier Country Club. I said, look at the situation with the Board of Health. We're one of the few parishes in the state of Louisiana that has its own Board of Health. We pay state tax that covers everybody else's Board of Health, but we operate our own. I'm not saying it's feasible. I've seen them do it in Orleans when I was there. It's the state's responsibility. We are doing inspections and everything that the state is responsible to do. I know why it was put in there, and you got to go back to way in the Leander Perez and everything. They didn't want the state's nose in our business. And I'm telling you, there's answers. If y'all want me to go a little longer, I can stand a little bit. I asked you about the boat harbors. Not one water meter in the boat harbors were working in the Buras Marina. It went to nothing. I don't have the health right now to go check them again. They are supposed to be an enterprise fund. It's a joke. If you can't operate it, close it down. We are subsidizing, and you know we are. We are subsidizing fishermen. I love the fishermen, but they got to pay their way too. We're spraying orange groves. Look at you picking up ride down the highway and see the pallets that we pick up with the trash department. They picking up waste from people remodeling homes. We shouldn't be picking it up. That's not what they're paying for. You see certain McDonald's has its own dumpster. I don't want to name it because it's my cousin's place. He don't have a dumpster. Puts all his waste out on the highway. We pick it up. Sarah Victoria, private company cut down a tree. It took us 3 days. You know what the contractor told me? I love to work in Plaquemine because I don't have to haul the waste out. I put it on the street. Look at what you're wasting money on. And this is all, but anyway, you want an answer on mosquito control? Tell me how much acres you want to control, and let's figure out what you need and put that as, I will guess right now, it's not going to be over 25 cents an acre. And the same thing happens with the drainage. You want to drain land? Tell me how many acres you want to drain? Let's put a fee on per acre. You know, and I got to give it, this is the best, I wish you wasn't here. Mr. Lapine at least answers calls and comes out and talks. He'll tell me, we don't have money to do it. And I said, can we assist? And then I'm told by somebody, well, we can't do what you want to do because the pipe may collapse. And then you without, I said, I don't have a drain pipe anyway. It's full of sand. I just told Mr. Russo just now, the parish truck had to get a wrecker to get their truck out the hole in our street. And what they did after, they just took the bags of sand. What did they do? They emptied them in the hole. I invite every one of you to pass my house when you leave here today. The same hole they filled, I dare you to drive your vehicle over it. I dare you to drive it. But the sand went in the hole, it lasted 2 days, now it's down in the pipe. You see the street collapsed. We offered to examine the pipe, we even offered to buy arch pipe and cross the street at a shallower level. We want to participate. Our subdivision spends $250,000, just our subdivision, in ad valorem tax to this parish. And you know what we get out of it? That. And I'm just saying, I'm a citizen and I go to the budget hearings whenever it's possible. And I don't think if you put these at night, you will get the public to come out. They don't give a damn. I'm sorry about it.
Mr. Blank?
Go
ahead, Mr. Lapine.
Mr. Lawrence, thank you for the kind words, and I'm glad you're feeling better. Mr. Lawrence was in the hospital this week, but thank you for being here. Okay, but Mr. Blank, I'm gonna wrap up. This will be my last comment, and I guess I scratched my head thinking, you just asked the public person up here, what do you think? And their response was, we'll put it on property tax. And quote me if I'm wrong, and you say, what if I don't pay another $60 a year? Is that what you said? Yes. Okay, so if we put the $5 a month of mosquito control, isn't that $60 a month, a year?
$5 a month would be.
$5 a month equal.
People won't realize it's $60 a year on their property tax.
Well, if you put $5 on the water bill times 12, that's 60 to.
Cut the pizza in 4 slices. I'm not hungry enough to eat 8.
Come on, hold on, guys.
One thing I'm gonna tell you right now, and I told this to Mr. LaFrance, and I think I told Mr. Bartholomew, and I told it to you. You're gonna face a legal challenge, and I'm gonna tell you, you're gonna lose it because we lost it. You put that mosquito control on that water bill, you cannot, guarantee you cannot cut off the water if they don't pay it. They tried it in the city of New Orleans and got shot down with the garbage fee. You cannot shut off their water to enforce, except if it's for water and sewer. Check it out, legal. We got killed with it. You cannot shut a water bill down because of those excess fees. It has to be for the water and the sewer. I'm telling you right now, book on it. If somebody refuses to pay it, you can't enforce it by shutting off their water.
Thank you, Mr. Lawrence. Mr. Blink, what are your wishes on this?
I want to withdraw it.
All right, item is withdrawn. Item 4, please.
An ordinance authorizing the president of Plaquemines Parish government to enter into an agreement with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development, assigning its interest in 3 separate parcels of property owned by Plaquemines Parish that are needed for state project number H 008068- Peters Road Bridge and Extension Phase 2, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Russo.
Mr. Russo,
Yes, before us today, we have,
you want to ask for a second?
y'all offer an extra second.
A second. Mr. LaFrance, seconds. Mr. Russo.
Yes, what this is an agreement with the DOTD and the Regional Planning Commission to enter into another phase of Peters Road. We have Mr. LV here, if you want to come up and make some comments, or you want me to? Thank you. We're, I've
thanks.
distributed the map. You'll see the 3 pieces of property on here that the parish government owns. Jefferson Parish has picked up their side of the work on the other side of the on the other side of the canal. This is mislabeled here as Intercoastal Waterway. This is not the Intercoastal Waterway on this map. But anyway, what this is on Peters Road going towards Boomtown. We own those 3 pieces that you see as tract parcel 2-4, 1B, and 1-3. And what we're doing, we're participating by contributing this property to the project in lieu of cash. And if you've read the appraisals, we're coming out at least $400,000 or $500,000 ahead. It's a portion of the property that we own that we do not need, and we want to keep the Peters Road project moving. This will do that without us having to come up with any more cash. So, make it short, that's what it does.
Did we get 2 appraisals?
This is,
Joking. No, you don't have to answer that. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Russo, you have the floor.
yes, I appreciate your support and look forward to getting the project moving.
Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, let's know the machine is open. Passes 9-0. Item 6, please. I think that's Mr. Bartholomew. Okay, go ahead and read it out, and then insert Mr. Bartholomew instead of Mr. LaFrance.
An ordinance prohibiting hunting on certain property owned by Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember.
Mr. Bartholomew? Go ahead.
With the amendment, would you read the amendment? Offer with the amendment. Do you have a copy of the amendment?
For changes?
Changes, I'm sorry, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm offer as read.
Okay, get a second? Second from Mr. Kognovich. Mr. Bartholomew, any other questions? All right, any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is over. Item passes 9-0. Item 7 is also, I think, Mr. Bartholomew. Is that correct? I got to read 7 out, please.
An ordinance authorizing the execution of extensions to the lease of Lot A, Port Eads, for a period of 20 years pursuant the provisions of LARS 41-1217, the leasee having met the requirements of law and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Mr. Bartholomew? Offer and ask for a second. Second from Mr. Gouy. Mr. Bartholomew?
Offer as read, this was a request by the owners of the camp that they've been doing down there, and they want to change it over. So they're requesting an agreement with the parish. And I think our legal department reviewed it, and this is what they came up with.
Mr. Blank?
I have no idea whose property this is, but would there be some sort of CPI attached to this or anything like that?
I suggest you talk to Mr. Burris. Ready?
Go ahead.
As the ordinance is written, no.
What does this exactly do?
So these are 4 small lots down by Port Eads. And I think it's more or less have had the same 4 tenants for I don't know, maybe going on 20 years now. This is Mr. Andrews' lease down there. The state statutes, so there was originally a bid done on this. The state statutes allow a lessee who makes a certain amount of improvements the opportunity to basically appeal to the council and renew their lease without going back out for bid if they've made a certain amount of improvements on that lease. In 2004, Mr. Andrew had made $91,000 in improvements on the property, and then in 2018 he made another $65,588 in improvements on the property, and so we have the records to that, and so based on that information, Mr. Andrew appealed to Mr. Bartholomew to exercise his rights under LRS 41-1217, and it's really up to the council whether or not they want to renew the lease or not. I do know, I spoke to Mr. Andrew about this yesterday at the civil service hearing. He wanted me to impress to the council that, he's made these improvements and he's an active leaseholder down there. And apparently he and his family members from time to time keep an eye on Port Eads. I want to take that into consideration, but that's the answer.
Mr. Kognovich?
They've been paying the same lease amount for 20 years?
Yes, sir, he has.
Don't you think it's time to go up? Because I could rent a slip in the harbor that'll cost me more than to rent the property.
That's a decision for this council.
Mr. LaFrance?
Why are we doing this 2 years in advance?
Mr. Andrew requested it. I think the previous extension, he requested 2 years in advance. We don't have the obligation to offer it, but he can certainly ask, and there's nothing in the law that prevents us from doing that. I think he's just eager to secure his lease for another 20 years.
So how much do they pay in rent?
How much we pay in rent?
How much do they pay us in rent?
Oh, I'm sorry, $260 a year.
Wow. Wow. That's a good deal.
Is that what they all pay?
I'm sorry?
Is that what they all pay, all four?
That, no, I think another one individual pays $250, and I think another individual pays $300 and some change. I don't know the exact amount.
I would like to make a recommendation to those councils that we try to raise that up a little bit, something.
What about the taxes off of that property? Or, I mean, he said he's put $65,000 improvements and that kind of thing. I mean,
I honestly, I don't know. I'd have to defer to the assessor on that and see what the valuation is.
sure.
I have a question. Those camps that are there, they're prominent people in the parish, and you said they help keep Port Eads in order because we don't have anyone down there? I mean, on their own.
Mr. Andrew wanted me to impress to you all that he actually goes down there, he uses a camp, his family uses a camp. A couple of times he's called the administration and said, I saw something or another at Port Eads, is that, our people, whatever. So he just wanted me to impress to you all that he's an active tenant and from time to time keeps an eye on Port Eads.
I think it's safe to say this thing needs a lot of work. Mr. Russo?
I was going to ask what the rent was, but I'm afraid to ask. I've already heard.
Well,
I'm not going to ask, I just heard.
If it's the council's will that, we try to renegotiate a better rent, the legal department is certainly up to the task of doing that. But this is something that Mr. Andrew brought to Mr. Bartholomew, and it's typically what's been done in the past. And I know all these different leases are unique, but it's up to this council.
Mr. Kognovich?
And it has to be negotiated,
Okay. My recommendation would be for Mr. Bartholomew to defer this and And I will certainly speak to Mr. Andry and see what we can negotiate.
Dr. Gouy?
Yeah, I would just take into consideration that these were pieces of property consisting of roseau canes.
I'm sorry?
The property consisted of roseau canes
Right.
on ground. And the people who are there moved houses onto those sites. They keep the property up to date. They do bulkheading, all at their own expense. And if they weren't there, it would be roseau canes.
Correct. I mean,
Just think about that when we start looking at the facts of this situation.
And I hope I made it clear that Mr. Andry has made over $150,000 worth of improvements in and around the property. He has to actually submit that to the parish in order to be offered a renewal without it going back to public bid. So, to follow up on what Dr. Gouy said, he certainly has invested a lot into the property.
Mr. Albro?
Yes, I agree with Dr. Gouy a great deal, and the only other thing I would add is, due to the location and the access to this, I mean, is there anything to even compare, comparables, with Jefferson Parish and things? I mean, we all know that it's very cheap to lease land like this, but...
Well, I mean, this is extremely unique. I mean, the properties off of Lake Pontchartrain and some of the properties even at Jefferson Parish, all I think are pretty accessible by land. This property is not. I will tell you that the original rental figure would have had to have gone through public bid. And so in 2001, there were bids and $260 was the highest bid. So, it's a unique property. That's not to say it's not worth more than $260 today, but that's how the process plays out.
Mr. LaFrosse?
I just want to remind the council that we just spent $860,000 on property that the parish just had improved on for the water intake. Thank you.
Ms. Newberry?
I know this has been standard practice for the parish with camps on the water. These people are coming out there and investing a lot of money in camps that could be going tomorrow. So I think that's another consideration that the board has to think about. And like you said, Mr. Andrews put hundreds of thousands of dollars into this property that could be going by next hurricane season. So, I mean, to really increase to a substantial amount of lease, I mean, then it may not be worth it, but something to consider, the money they put into this property.
Mr. Kidovich?
I had a camp I spent $60,000 in right before Katrina, and you want to know where it's at today? But how much do we charge on rent for the marina for a slip?
I don't have those figures with me, Mr. Kognovich. I have a slip in Empire. I think I pay $180 quarterly.
Well,
I think I pay $180 quarterly for my slip in Empire that I had before I worked for the government, just to clarify.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, it's kind of apples and oranges. I mean, I think I still have a lease on Bayou Foran, and I paid for 50 years for $250.
I mean, at OB, so how much do we charge at?
Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, but it's not a boat slip. We're talking about a camp lease. I mean, like my lease is on Bayou Foran, which is not even there anymore. And I still have the lease, and I paid like $250 10 years ago for one-time lease. So I mean, you know how it is. We talk about apples and oranges, but anyway, Mr. Bartholomew, you wish to call the question? You said. What's your wishes? All right, Mr. Bartholomew calls the question. The council member who offered called the question. All right, go ahead, come on up.
Is there any property tax he pays to the parish on this?
It shouldn't be. I mean,
I've tried to look since I've been sitting
Well,
here.
I had a camp in Port Suffolk where you had to get to by boat, but we pay property tax to the
yeah, I
parish
don't know.
on a lease. You did too? well, we didn't have sewer and water because we had to go by boat, but we paid property tax. It had an assessment on it, and we paid property tax to the parish assessor.
Nothing would exempt him from paying property taxes.
And I'm asking,
Well, what I can tell you is that nothing under the law would exempt him from paying property taxes on the improvements he made on the property. So there's nothing from the parish that exempts him from that. Now, whether or not the assessor is actually capturing it and collecting those taxes, honestly, I didn't do the research on that. But
Okay, because I know they.
but nothing exempts him.
They definitely, I know I was back at Port Sulphur, and we got a tax bill every year. And we had an assessment on our, and we had a lease with the Delta Land Company, but we paid taxes. The other thing I says, can we sell it to them? Can we sell it to the highest bidder and get it off the darn rolls? And then they gotta pay taxes. Is there a value, an assessed value? And somebody might come in and give you $5,000 for the place at $200 and something a year, you way ahead of the game. A hurricane will probably take it by then.
It'll cost us more to do appraisals and go through the whole process than what the value of the property is.
Well, the assessor did appraisal on mine when it was that, so. But anyway, I just question, why can't you unload it? I said that would.
It's in a mall. It's in
The same thing. Get rid of it. It's a rich man's club. Of course, they never did let me sit on the board after I got appointed by y'all. Mr. Andre is on the board.
All right, any other questions, comments from the audience? He called the question already, Mr. Blank. I had to let the audience speak. It's Mr. Bartholomew's discretion on whether or not to remove the question. All right, machine's open.
I want to do a manual. Sorry.
It shows that we did vote. Do we want to do a reconsideration?
Yes.
So we need to vote on a motion to reconsider.
Never mind, let's just let it ride. The thing is, the value of $100 in 1999 is now worth $150, and in 20 years, we did not increase this. And here it is, we're talking about fees and going up and trying to figure out how to put our box.
I don't have any mic control, so. Item 7 passes 7-2. Item 8.
An ordinance to authorize Plaquemines Parish government on behalf of Plaquemines Parish in the West Bank Levy District as grantor to approve a pipeline right-of-way agreement with Venture Global Gator Express LLC as grantee to construct and operate two 42-inch natural gas pipelines over, across, and under 3 separate tracts of land located in Section 16, Township 17 South, Range 25 East, and in Section 3, 10, and 15, Township 18 South, Range 25 East, and authorize the parish president to execute the pipeline right-of-way of agreement and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
Mr. LaFrance?
So offered.
Offered, ask for a second. Mr. Kidovich, seconds. Any questions or comments, Mr. Russo?
Mr. Cooley, do you know what revenue we'll be getting off of this pipeline?
98,000 a year.
Just provide us with the number, please. Yeah.
It'll be an annual rental of $98,437.
$98,400 and what?
$437
Annually?
annually.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cooley.
Thank you. Venture Global.
Mr. LaFrance, any other questions, comments from the table? From the audience, Mr. LaFrance?
Let's see. It's $98,467 a year, and they're paying, I want to say $50 a stick per rod. No, that's what they're paying per year.
Is it all?
Yes.
All right, any other questions or comments? Machine is open. 8-0 with one abstention. Item D.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 manpower structure and operating expenditures budget, general fund, interim employee training department, coastal zone land department, and the director of operations department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Kokrovich. This is basically the position for Mr. Beshel. Any questions or comments from the table?
What are we doing with this position?
Anybody from administration wants to? He asked you, Mr. LaFrance asked, what are we doing with this position?
Forgive me, I was speaking to the council attorney.
This is Mr. Beshel's position. Yeah, go ahead.
This was a position that Mr. Beshel was originally going to go and was originally going to be the land superintendent. And I think it was the administration's understanding that that would have been an unclassified position. Civil Service has said that that's a classified position. And so, therefore, Mr. Beshel could not go into that position. So after reviewing the Civil Service manual, there is a provision in there that allows unclassified appointments or positions to be made underneath each of the charter directors. Actually, two, a confidential assistant and/or a deputy assistant or principal assistant to the director. So we approached Civil Service about this being an option. It's my understanding that Civil Service has more or less agreed that it would be considered an unclassified position, and therefore we could move Mr. Beshel into that position. Makes sense.
Mr. Bartholomew?
What is the total amount of money we're looking for? And besides, let's see, the salary is 65 plus benefits, so what's the total salary? I never added it up.
Typically, it's 35%, I think is what we factor. So, hold on, let me get my calculator.
18,000.
18,000?
Yeah, 80,000 roughly.
Okay,
83,000.
I come up with 87,750, roughly about that amount.
So it's 87,000, we're looking at increasing, all right? I just wanted to let the people know what it is, what we done, that's all.
All right, any other questions or comments from the table?
Yes, and this is a position that we definitely need.
I think so. Under the prior administration, it's my understanding that these services were being fulfilled by a third-party contractor, and the parish expensed over $300,000. And so the goal is to reduce those services significantly and allow someone like Mr. Beshel, who has expertise in this area, to handle 80 to 90% of what was previously being handled by a third-party contractor.
Mr. LaFrance?
I yield.
All right, any other questions or comments from the table? From the floor, from the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open. And it passes 8-0. Mr. Blank is absent. Item E, please.
A resolution supporting S 2418 and HR 3814, which seek to increase GOMESA revenue sharing with Gulf Coast states, strenuously objecting to the allocation of federal mineral revenue to federal programs unless the allocation also increases the GOMESA revenue that is shared with Gulf Coast states. Thanking Senators Cassidy and Kennedy and Congressman Richmond and Graves for their leadership in this critically important effort of achieving increased revenue sharing for Louisiana through GOMESA and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Do we have for the record, is there any objection to unanimous second? Huh? Okay, with no objection, we have a unanimous second. And Any questions or comments from the table? All right, from the audience? I just want to thank these senators for this, and congressmen for this bipartisan Senate and House resolution. Our machine is open. It passes 9-0. Item I, please.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 general fund manpower structure, flood control department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black.
I'll offer and ask for a second. Second by Mr. Kokavich, just at the request of the administration. Yeah, this is L. What is this one? Gentlemen?
1 second, I'm sorry.
No, I never deferred to L. Yeah. We want L. Right? You read L, huh? Oh, did I? I'm sorry. Yeah, L. Yeah. The second's removed. And that's deferred. Yeah, we want L. Go to L, please.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 general fund manpower structure, flood control department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
All right, I'll offer on L. Ask for a second. Ms. Newberry, seconds. All right, administration.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a position, a lowball operator. We've been advertising it since May the 28th. And at such a low salary, we haven't gotten nobody to apply for that position. So all we're doing is trying to move that one out and bring in an operator position. That way it'll give us more people on the machine and we can substitute on the lowball with other drivers.
All right, thank
What
you.
it is, it's like a 75 cents less on the operator.
All right, thanks. Any questions or comments from the table? Ms. LaFrance?
We don't need a lowball operator anymore?
We do, we have Jody, and Jody's fixing to retire, but we have some other drivers that can assist us, and we, just helping for the assistance with the other employees.
Multitasking.
Multitasking, there you go. Couldn't think of it. Right.
Civil service allow that?
I'm sorry?
Does civil service allow that?
They're a truck driver, that would be a truck driver two position. So,
I think a
Well, I shouldn't
lowball, you
speak-
need
I
to
shouldn't
have a
speak so-
Class A.
yes, we have 5 or 6 drivers that have Class A driver's license.
That's it?
Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open. Passes 9-0. M, please.
A resolution establishing the dates, times, and places of public hearings on the proposed 2020 operating budget and on the proposed capital improvements budget covering a period of at least 5 years as submitted by the parish president to authorize the council secretary to place the necessary public notice in the Plaquemines Gazette pursuant to section 7.02A and section 7.05C of the Charter for Local Self-Government, Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Black.
I'll offer with changes and ask for a second.
Second.
All right, second by Mr. Kokavich. The changes are on line 15, inserting the date and time, Tuesday, November 12th, 2019, at 9 a.m. at the Belle Chase Council Building Chambers, 333 F. Edward A. Boulevard, Building 203. Item, line 18, Wednesday, November 13th, 2019. Line 23, October 28th, 2019. And line 25, October 28th, 2019, until November 13th, 2019. That's all, Mr. Blank?
Is this enough time to accomplish the very big task at hand? Do we need
Probably not.
the morning of Thursday as well to add?
I mean,
Arrange the audit committee meeting?
yeah, we're not having,
Do you want to hold the morning of the 14th just in case?
I think we had some issues. Ms. Toop sent it out a while back and got everybody's responses. I mean, I think we had issues with the day before and the day after. These were only 2 days available. I mean, we worked through the night at sometimes, so I mean, that's just.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. Mr. Bartholomew? Yeah.
Yes, I can't be there on the 12th because of previous commitment to the doctors. And I sent my, in to the secretary to notify her of that when it first came out. And I've been waiting, it takes 2-3 months for me to get these appointments. And, I think you need to give me some consideration to be at this meeting. That this is not protocol when the council member can't attend the meeting because of medical reasons. So I'm totally objecting and not voting for this day of the 12th. The other day is no problem. The day before is not a problem. The day after is not a problem. The Monday before is not a problem. But just the 12th day is a problem. So if you want me there, change the date. If you don't want me there, keep it as is. That's all. Thank you, Mr.
Mr. Russo?
Is there any reason why we couldn't make it on Monday, the 11th, and continue it on the 13th?
Monday is, Veterans Day.
Okay, that's a good reason.
And
What about moving it to the 13th and the 14th?
Someone, I'm not sure if it's Rochelle or Tommy, is on vacation. They start vacation that day. Change it.
Well, I mean, the thing about it is we had this, you say change it, we just, I know you did. Oh, absolutely you did. No, I'm not saying you, Mr. Bartholomew. I'm not saying you. I'm not saying you. I'm just saying that to get
Nobody ever called other than the secretary. Called. No one else did. So when it was planned. So that's my problem. Yeah.
Time's your appointment. Time's your appointment.
My appointment was 11 o'clock. How long I'm staying? I don't even know that. Yeah. Started that afternoon, yeah, that's fine. Started the evening. Just like Councilman Black said, we don't give the public any, an opportunity to be involved. Started at 6 o'clock, 2 o'clock.
Well, this is just for the posting of it. Let's just post it for this time, and if we have to adjust the time,
I voted for it, so you gotta put the time in this thing.
well, I gotta check my schedule too. I mean,
Why you didn't check everybody's schedule?
because that's not my job. The council secretary sent the email out to everybody, got everybody's input. We went through everybody's responses, sent an email out confirming the dates.
Dr. Bowie won't be here till 2, so let's start back at 2. You check the schedule? Same day? Same day, 2 o'clock.
All right, amend line 15 from 9 a.m. to 2 a.m., 2 p.m. Can I get a second on that? Second on Mr. Kognovich? That's fine.
I don't know, that might not be making for me. I don't know what's going on there with me.
Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open.
Can we do some of this work broken down in committees ahead of time?
There's your book, man, get after it.
Item passes 9-0. O, please.
A resolution expressing support for the Plaquemines Parish Economic Development Department to enter into the Louisiana Department Ready Communities Program and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember Newberry.
Ms. Newberry.
I'll offer it to Keith Espron.
Ms. Newberry offers and asks for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Mr. Espedron.
Yeah, this is just one of Louisiana Economic Development's programs. It's called Louisiana Development Ready Community. What they're going to do, they're going to send some of their staff to come and help us develop. They're going to do a community assessment a 5-year strategic plan with implementation strategies and a 10-year vision. Something like this normally would cost several thousands of dollars if we had to get consultants, but LED offers this program. It's a competitive application process, and part of what they ask for is a resolution of council support.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments, Mr. LaFrance?
So this is sort of like they're putting a master plan together?
This is basically a master plan, but it would be directly toward economic development. It's not going to cover everything that we do, only our economic development plan and strategies for the next 5 years. Yes, sir.
Mr. Russo?
Will they review the existing master plan?
I have reviewed the existing master plan extensively, so once this is passed, and if we do get accepted, that will be brought to the committee. It's going to be a committee that's put together, and of course, ideas that are in there as it relates to economic development are going to be brought forth, maybe enhanced upon. The council will be provided with periodic updates, and will also be available to participate in the process.
Thank you. Ms. Newberry, you wish to move?
We'll move on.
Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none, the machine is open.
Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president on his designee to fill in a hole left after Katrina located on Highway 15 behind the Bethlehem Baptist Church in Point LaHash, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Councilmember LaFrance.
Mr. LaFrance?
That's Mr. Bartholomew.
I'm sorry. Mr. Bartholomew offers, ask for a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. LaFrance seconds. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes. The situation is a result that never was done. But since Katrina was in the place when we ran the sewer line in that area, that's when Katrina took place, and what they were doing, they were backfilling all of the sewer treatment plant tanks. And I don't know how that one got left out, but it started to sink. Now it's sinking. Before it wasn't sinking, now it is. So he's asking that we put a load of dirt in and cover that hole up. That's where it's sinking by the Baptist Church down there. And that's it.
Mr. Blank?
It's on public property?
Baptist Church.
This is not on Plaquemines Parish government property?
Baptist Church. It's not. You know, it's what's on the church property. It's got to be the church. But all that was part of the contract. And you see, when that contractor left and never did finish the job. During after Katrina, they hauled tail, they left, they never came back. So what the parish was doing, as those things came about, they was filling it in. And all it takes is a load of dirt that they can get that dirt off the back highway 39 that we dug out the drainage canal and fill that in. But again, it's up to this council to do whatever y'all want to do, it's fine. I'm voting for it.
Mr. I don't have any questions for anybody. Anybody else have any questions from the table? Mr. Gui?
From the parish attorney's office.
You good?
The first thing that comes to mind is this is probably an illegal donation of public funds. I'm willing to look at what Mr. Bartholomew said happened in the past to see if there was some exemption or some project where the property was affected by maybe activities that the parish was conducting, and therefore, for some reason, this whole is a result of our negligence or our activities. So I'm willing to research and look into that, but without additional research, this, in my mind, would be an illegal donation of public funds.
Any other questions or comments from the table? Mr. Bartholomew, go ahead.
I don't think the parish was at fault because it's under contractual agreement that was with those people who laid the sewer line was to do that, to do it. When they run the sewer line, they would bust those tanks to hold and fill in with sand. So it wasn't where it was neglectful of the parish not doing what they're supposed to be doing. I just want to clear that.
Well,
and the end of the result was because of when the storm took place, all this stuff went, everything was gone crazy because half the people didn't come back. So parish didn't even worry about it at that point in time because nobody was complaining. But as people was moving back in, that's when they started complaining about that. Even the hookups to the sewer system wasn't completed. But I don't have a problem with drawing that, and you can get with the engineering department and look at the records and see what you want to see. And still, if you can't do it, the pastor can't say I didn't try. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, man, we got, we got some rocks over there, got some more rocks left.
Here on the East Bank.
It's came out the drainage canal off of private property. That's on the back way Highway 39. It's free.
How much is the
It
load?
won't cost the parish a dime for the dirt. It's just to haul it and load it.
How much is the load?
Load of dirt? About 200.
I'll donate it.
I don't know about the deliver now.
Wow.
Delivering it.
No, that's another question. I about $300, I guess. I don't know, $300.
We could take a
100,
donation from the table right here and give the church their fill their mud.
Yeah. We could table it, and if attorney gonna get with the engineering department who was responsible for the overseer of the project and see if it's a valid deal. That's all I can say.
I'll look into it if that's.
If that's what you wanted, that's what you need.
Well, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah,
I
I'm just saying,
we wouldn't authorize.
I'm trying to
it.
accommodate your concerns, Mr. Brennan Pierce.
Well, I appreciate that.
Because I
Counsel.
don't like for you to be upset about legal matters at this table.
I appreciate.
I want to comply with your request.
Mr. LaFrance moves a second. You wish to defer, Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, we defer it.
All right.
I am, if Mr. LaFrance would.
Yeah, he did. Item P is deferred. Item Q.
An ordinance to amend the 2019 Library Services Fund operating expenditure budget, Libraries General Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto, Councilmember LaFrance.
Mr. LaFrance's office, can I ask for a second? Second by Mr. Kainovich. Mr. LaFrance?
Yeah, this is, some money needed to purchase some computers.
All right, any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? All right, with none? Machine is open. Passing 9-0 R, please.
Deferred.
Deferred. S is deferred. Item 10, B, District 1 update. Mr. Bartholomew. Mr. Bartholomew stepped away. Item C, District 9 update, Mr. Kainovich.
Just like to thank y'all, the administration, for putting the museum artifacts back. Thank y'all. That's it.
All right, thank you. Item D, District 7 update, Atmos Gas Company, in discussion regarding Grand Bayou Road, Happy Jack Road, and Highway 11, and discussion regarding drainage issues in Myrtle Grove. Mr. LaFrance?
I would like to ask the administration to, the parish president, see if they can get in contact with Atmos Gas. I contacted them several months ago. They contacted me about a month and a half ago, said that they was gonna meet with me and Mr. Bartholomew, and it hasn't happened yet. That's Atmos Gas. Grand Bayou Road, Happy Jack Road, Highway 11. I want to thank y'all for every time we call out on Happy Jack Road and Grand Bayou Road, come out there and grade it and put shells on it and do what needs to be done. But however, we have to come up with a master plan. We have to come up with a plan for those roads. Because them roads, every time the tide come high, they underwater. Again, we dealing with funding, but those roads, especially Grand Bayou Road, need to be raised up about 3 foot. I know you don't have the answer, but the material that we putting in Diamond Park, it was to be used to shore up Grand Bayou Road, and I spoke to Ken, and they said they couldn't put it on to shore up Grand Bayou Road because it has to be permitted through EPA and everything. Have they filed the paperwork for that yet?
Good.
All right.
in the process of laying out the design for rocking the entire road and putting a layer of shell on there, and we'll come see you as soon as the design and everything's ready. I'll come visit you and show you what we have planned for the Grand Bayou Road and area, because we're looking at the bulkhead. You know, we want to make it perfect all the way back to the bulkhead to include it within the boat harbors.
Are you available on October the 29th?
I can't answer, wait, let me look at my calendar real quick and see where we at, 29th.
It's Tuesday.
At 12 o'clock?
Yes. Noon?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a meeting back there. Me and Mr. Blank have a meeting back there with
Okay.
the citizens of Grand Bayou Road. I appreciate if you could be
Okay,
there.
absolutely, absolutely.
Dedicated highway back there?
Huh?
Dedicated highway, right?
Public road, yeah.
Right? Well,
Yeah, yes.
You're right, I know.
Let me give him an update.
I know, that's why I said that. Public road, I want to short. I don't want to leave nobody out in the. Yeah, the public sewage.
An issue with Myrtle Grove. Have we have any plans on dealing with the drainage situation with those covers? Like Mr. Lawrence said, we had a truck back there. And I'm kind of worried about those trucks going over those dips because you never know when one of them roads is going to collapse.
I'll get with engineering and find out if we have a plan, and if they don't, we'll develop one and find out where to go with it.
Okay, also, is it possible for us to get the drainage canal, I don't know what word you would use, but to dig out those vegetation like lilies and grass and what's hampering that canal from draining? You know what I'm talking about?
In the drainage canal?
Yes.
We'll take a look at it.
And I had asked Mr. Special about it, but he said we didn't have the equipment at the time, and that was the time right after Barry. And I think we had a lot of equipment at that time, but for some reason, we didn't get it done.
Okay.
That'll help us alleviate some of the problems we have back there. Mr. Lawrence, you want to come?
Come up to the thing.
When we met with the Corps of Engineers last week, there's only one pump working in the new pumping station. And I don't know what the status is gonna be. It's no longer the responsibility of the Corps. They said it's the parishes. When we met with Mr. Wagner, and he said there's 3 of the pumps are down, and the gearboxes are going, but it's not the Corps' responsibility. But once they turned it over to the parish, but we were operating on 25% pumping capacity. You were there when we.
Well, you know, and that ain't bad, because that's all the feed we can get is 25%.
Until they dig the canal, you can't pump it out anyway.
But that is absolutely crazy to have brand-new pumps and don't last 2 years.
Yes. And they say it's not their responsibility.
So I guess you're gonna ask me for that money, and Scott?
Hey, what's more important? You know, we gotta drain the parish. We have quite a few other pumps that we got problems with like that too. So,
Mr. Russo?
Yeah, I'd suggest the legal department look if there's some warranties on these pumps since they were just put in the last couple of years.
but that's from my understanding that they were on warranty and, you know, I'll get into it and check into it.
I know, but we.
Mr.
That was
Bashir
before
was
that
at the meeting with Mr. Wagner. That's when we found out there was only one pump working.
My point is this, that somebody needs to put them on notice before the time expires, whether they're under warranty or not, like yesterday.
They know about it.
Have the manufacturer warranty been notified?
I'm not sure about that.
But that's my point here. You know, a lot of people know about things, but if you don't get the information to the warranty people in the right frame of time and they tell you, oh, it expired yesterday, we're out of luck.
We'll check into it.
Again, I want to thank the administration for helping us with those issues. Yield, Mr. Black.
All right, thank you. Item E, District 5 update. 5 E1, status update on the property in the corner of Ellis Street and 23, Mr. Russo.
Yes, I've seen some improvement in the appearance. I'm still waiting on some legislation from you, I would imagine, so we can put something on the books in case it becomes deplorable again in the next month.
We actually set an abatement hearing on that, November 20th, so we'll have that abatement hearing on November 20th. We are currently working to revise the legislation, but we went ahead and decided to move forward with the abatement hearing anyway.
Thank you.
All right, item F, District 8 update, pump station update, and discussion regarding water billing. Mr. Blank.
So there's a little bit of tropical activity in the Gulf this weekend. Are we up to the task at hand? There's a tropical storm that's headed this way this weekend. Are we up to the task at hand to handle that?
Well, in Duvik, we got one pump down there for a gearbox problem. Grand Liard, the same thing. We got another gearbox problem on that one. We're gonna have people in place this weekend, and we're gonna do the best we can do and pump and, you know.
Mr. Conover.
Ali has one pump by gearbox down too.
Speaking
That's
about the
three different
Trump,
locations.
the Trump pumping plant.
Trying.
Last Thursday, they had an oil spill in that canal.
Yes.
I went by, I think it was yesterday or the day before, and I took pictures. There's a sheen by the pump, so I went and talked to the people cleaning it up.
They have booms around that pump station right now, and,
They do
Yes, sir.
now, because
They-
I went and talked to them about it.
today, they were there. Patrick Harvey was down there checking on that situation this morning, and they had boom around the pump station for the rain this weekend, and they have bare minimum, just a little sheen on top, but there is boom around the pump station.
Because I went and told them they had to put it, because they didn't have no boom blocking it by the debris catch or any around them.
Right. Okay, but they, like I said, Patrick Harvey was down there this morning, and they had boom around it, and it was bare minimum oil spill. They had it all, pretty much 90% of it cleaned up, and we're gonna do our best at, pumping all weekend, and we'll have the people in place.
All right, Mr. Blank.
Sure. So just to confirm, how many pumps are at the Ollie station?
They got 4.
Okay, and
One of them-
only one is down, correct?
Yes, sir.
For gearbox issues. All right. Okay. Can we go ahead and go to water billing now?
Yeah, your discussion.
Okay. All right, I've noticed out in the field and on social media, a lot of folks are getting estimated bills. I myself, the last 2 months, have gotten estimated bills. I know we have a manpower shortage. I've even talked with folks in industry that use an incredible amount of drinking water supply, and their bill had been estimated 5 times in the last year. And I was wondering if there's any sort of like a priority, or somebody wasn't hit this month, they would make sure it was read the next month, or for like a large industrial entity, they would make, because the bills can be so expensive, like a $30,000 water bill, that they could we could have some certainty that those would be read each month, or those folks could send a photo of the meter in if we couldn't get a field guy out there. Is that?
You saw the email I sent to water billing to say, make sure you read the industry that you're speaking of in particular every month.
Certainly,
That- That will be taken care of, that will be read every month.
Okay.
As far as estimations, yes, we have been short on manpower. We have a total of 7 positions for meter readers. We haven't had more than 5 at any one period this year. And we were down to 3 at one point. We just hired 2. So we have 2 that have just finished training and are now in the field this month, reading meters this month. Stefan, the guy that reads on the lower end of the parish, has been reading supposedly half the lower end one month and then half the other month. so we can try to get some of these things accomplished. But he will read that particular industry meter every month.
Got it. Okay. All right. And one of the reasons why I withdrew the mosquito control is there's just repeated, just one after the next, folks coming to me, we can't have you, putting another deal on us when we're not being read. And there's a lot of pushback that I'm getting in the field about the meter situation. I understand that we have just a certain amount of folks, and it almost a little shocking that there's only 5 people for the entire parish. How is the automation coming along? How many of those have been installed?
When I sent the update to you guys yesterday morning,
I get those, and I just want the public to know.
1,229 total smart meters changed out to date. We're getting close to the end of phase 1 of this project, which will get us to about 1,16 or 1,700 meters, depending on what's left in the budget. We're starting to work on phase 2, and we'll probably get well over 2,500 done next year, and the rest of them will be done the following year.
Thank y'all very much.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, on the subject of estimated water bills, the complaint that I get is that whenever they get an estimated bill, it's 2 or 3 times what their average bill is. And I'm not sure why it's like that, but I would think that if we're going to estimate a bill, we look back at the last month or two and take the average of that and put that on the bill.
That's exactly what they're supposed to do.
But that's not happening. I can assure you.
Well, sometimes the water fluctuates. Sometimes their most recent reading was much higher than the month before, especially, we had rain the first 6, 7 months of the year, and then the last 2 months of the year, it's been dry. And a lot of people are using their irrigation systems, and the irrigation systems use a lot more water than what a lot of people realize. So that's one of the issues, and there was one that was a social media thing, and I put my phone number on there and said, please call me, and I went out to the house and read the meter personally, and they're using the water. It's not that the bill was estimated, it was high because they actually used the water.
I realize that you can justify some of them, but I can bring you to some that you cannot justify. And the only reason I say that is because I had to bring him to he went to the water department to pay the bill. And, him and his wife, 84 years old, there's no excuse for the bill that he got. And so if it's double or triple the previous month, that's what shocks him. And I just don't believe that we are doing an average of the last 2 months. I may be wrong, but it doesn't show me that when the constituents that I have come forward with the bill.
I'll check into it, and I'll be happy to talk to anybody that has a problem with their bill.
While we were on that, Mr. Epley, I would just maybe educate the workforce in the water department, and maybe even come up with a scripted, statement that, unfortunately, due to manpower shortages, we estimate water bills, and then when we read them, sometimes it fluctuates, as opposed to just giving the generic statement of your toilet's leaking. I mean, I don't know how many toilets are leaking in this parish, but if the number of toilets are leaking, if they're telling people, we got some serious issues with toilets in this parish. But I mean, just come up with something, because we get these calls all the time and it's the same story. So that's my only thing, is maybe just let's educate the workforce to come up with a better statement. Mr. Blank.
Sure. Is there any chance we could have a, maybe an online portal where people could make an appeal online? They could take a picture of their meter, and that could, if they have a bill that is just completely shocking to them, they could take a photo of their bill and send it in. If there's a discrepancy, it could be worked out to where we wouldn't have to send a field tech out to their home. Is that an available option?
That's something we can certainly look into. I don't think we have the capability of an online portal for that right now.
Thank you.
Mr. LaFrance.
We installed over 1,200 automated meters.
Yes, sir.
So the more we install those, the less meter readers you would need, right?
Correct.
So 1,200 meters, new meters being installed, how many people do that eliminate?
How many?
In other words, every one meter reader, personnel, how many meters do one person read in a month time?
Well, we've got over 9,000 meters, and that's split up between 5 people currently. 9,000.
So basically,
minus
1,200 would be about one person.
So we still have 8,000 meters every month that we have to read. There are still some issues with these new meters as they're being installed. Sometimes the meter ID doesn't match up with the account. We still have to send people out into the field, even with these new meters after they've been changed out, to verify what the reading is manually, because we're getting something over the computer that doesn't match what's on the account. So sometimes we've had a mistake from an installer. Sometimes the meter was listed in a different address. So we're still having to send people, even with these new smart meters, into the field to go check some of them manually every month to make sure we get the information correct.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Blank, any other questions?
Thank
All
you
right.
all very much.
You're welcome. All right, we're gonna move to item 10K real quick so we can get Angie out of here. Presentation of the 2020 proposed budget. You can just leave mine back there, please. Just leave them all back there. You don't have to actually present them to us. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, hold on one second. Go ahead.
Okay. The administration is pleased to present the Parish Council the 2020 proposed operating budget and the 5-year capital budget. An electronic version will be sent to each of you and posted on the website by the end of next week. As you review this budget during the next few weeks, please contact my office or the Finance Department with any questions or suggestions. By doing this, this will facilitate efficient and effective budget hearings. Administration look forward to working with the Parish Council to review this proposed budget for adoption prior to the start of the 2020 fiscal year. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. LaFrance?
Do we have good news? Is there a lot of red lines in there?
That'd be a surprise.
All right, any other questions or comments from the table, from the audience on that? All right, none. Mr. Bartholomew, we skipped over B, so you want to combine B and G together? District 1 update and discussion regarding ferries? Yeah, all right, let's go to item I, discussion by Mark Guerra. Yeah, Mark Guerra regarding the Plaquemines Parish issues concerning the East Bank and the West Bank.
Pretty much, most of it was answered, and went over. But for Mr. Lapine, since he left, I can add, even though I'm from the East Bank, and it's, $60 a year, understand, but $60 per water bill, like y'all said, how many water bills? Not many. $60 on every property tax is a lot. So that was my point until you try to embarrass me. But second of all, the St. Clair Estates, I think the parish lawyer is familiar with it, and zoning boards and everything. I don't know how long, I think it has to be 2 years before it's brought up back up for zoning. I think it's trying to be neglected now, and that is for the affordable housing that's supposed to go in Braithwaite. The public doesn't like the wool trying to be pulled over their eyes, and they just need to be updated as usual, like y'all have been saying. So for the attorneys and the attorneys that bought the property and the grant money that they had to buy the property in order to get the grant money for the assisted housing. From the public's point of view, there's not good input on it. So if something else can be said about that on or further updated on the meeting, on next meeting, or put on an agenda, that'd be appreciated. Other than that, ferries, all that stuff, that's all, y'all dealt with all that all day, so.
Thank you. Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, the low income housing you're talking about?
Yes, ma'am.
Braithwaite?
Yes, ma'am.
I attended a meeting recently.
Okay.
I kind of support that because it's, low income would be under 52,000, was it? And, were you in that meeting, Rennie? I mean, a lot of parish workers don't make a lot of money, so my consideration would.
It was, to my understanding, it was the elderly and
That-
not parish workers and not parish.
That's not true. That's not true.
That's what was said at the zoning board.
I
That's
think,
not what I was told.
Rennie,
I think
we have we're under litigation right now with this, so I would, yeah, I think we need to,
Yep, and the dollar store got passed. It's that's infrastructure
Sorry.
problems and
I would
understand all the stuff.
I would suggest to
aware.
the council that agenda number item 10I is very broadly written, and to get in discussions about any and everything that can be happening on the East Bank and the West Bank, I think is going to be beyond the scope of what's allowed in the open meetings law. And so therefore, I would suggest that there be no further discussion because the public wouldn't have had notice of specific topics to be discussed today.
okay. Mr. Bartholomew, any more for this?
Thank you. Y'all said enough.
All right, thank you. Do you want to take items G and
I'll
H?
take them all together if you don't
All
mind.
right, let's do,
I'll take them all.
District 1 update, G, discussion regarding ferries, and H, discussion regarding organizations which receive grants from
And
Plaquemines
J-
Parish government.
And J will be just removed, will be
Withdrawn.
withdrawn because Mr. Brock was here earlier.
All right, Mr. Bartholomew, floor is yours.
Water line in Braithwaite. What, Mr. Epler, where we are with that grant money, with that water line that we're trying to replace? Start repairing anyway.
The grant money you're speaking of was earmarked for a portion of water line on Highway 39.
Yes.
We're moving that grant money. We're in the process. We've submitted the paperwork to the section in English Turn on Highway 3137. We're still waiting for the okay from the grant people, but it looks like everything's going through. As soon as we get a hold of that, we'll get a contractor.
And that is the worst spot.
Worst spot
Spot
in
in that
English
area.
Turn, yes. That's where we
Okay.
keep having problems with brakes.
Right, okay. And you don't know when that's gonna take place?
We're still waiting on word from the grants.
You don't know about time or something?
No, sir.
Well, could you please, whenever you find that information out, let me know so I can advise the people of such?
Yes, sir.
Because they keep calling me and asking me when.
Sure
So,
will.
but I told them I'd bring it up at every council meeting for discussion.
Sure.
Okay, the other thing I have is I want to thank Mr. Roussel, Scott Roussel. He saved the parish some money by cutting the branches that was hanging over Highway 39 when we entered the Phoenix. It's a possibility of a liability that could have happened. Because any little strong wind we get, that willow tree could have cracked, the branch could and fallen on top of someone's car. And I want to thank him for that very much because it's really might have saved some lives doing that. I want to thank you for that, getting that done expeditiously. Also, I want to thank you for the grass being cut. Finally, we're doing something over there, cutting grass on levees. I don't know how long it's going to last, but we're cutting. So that's a big time change. And that means a lot. And also the ditches are being cut at this point in time now to alleviate the water as much as possible from lingering on the highway where it can flow. And where it can't flow, the ditches need to be dug. So we're still having issues with that. So I don't know where you are on the ditches, when we're going to be able to start dealing, the main ditches really, to make sure the water is flowed off of the highway because it's very bad in some areas.
Right,
And-
we're trying to
Go ahead.
knock out a lot of the work request numbers
Mm-hmm.
and knock those out, but if there's another ditch on side of it,
Yeah.
doing their
Yeah.
best to get it done.
Yeah, but the main thing though, I think, is to relieve the water off the highway to get those, what they call those, name of those ditches? I forgot to have a name for them.
Outfall ditch?
Outfall ditches, yeah. And they'll go straight from the road to the drainage canal. And that'll alleviate a lot of the problems. Highway 39, we have some serious problems with drainage. I had a conversation with the state employment agency that managed the 39, and they said their job is not to dig ditches. They are to find the culverts or the pipes underneath the Highway 39 and expose them. And it's up to the parish to clean them out. So I don't know when we'll be able to start doing some of that because it's very dangerous. We lost several lives in a couple of years with that water on Highway 39. So if you can, find out when we can try to get to that and try to relieve that pressure of that water on that highway. Because whenever we have this bad pour-down rain, water is terrible, and it causes serious problem. I think the biggest problem, though, is people that's not from the area, that doesn't know the water lines on the highways. But I must say, you had the signs out at the last hard rain we had, the signs were out, and that alleviated a caution, put a caution out there and alleviate people just driving, not knowing what's out there. And I think in some of the areas, we may need to, at night, have the blinking caution light to identify the water spot, because just with the signs, you don't see the water on the highway at night. You don't see it. So if you can, I appreciate that. Ferries, I had a problem with the ferries. People are calling me, want to know what's going on, why we having so many breakdowns, why the ferries never haul on time. It's been pretty aggressively having these concerns. So I guess, I don't know, Mr. Epler, I don't know whatever you can recommend or say on that issue. I'll just put it out there and let them know, whatever it is that's causing these things. I know you can't resolve them, but the idea they want to know what is the problem, why we have so many delays and tie-ups, you know.
We've had 2 mechanical failures with the Pride since it went in service in Belle Chase. One was the turbocharger that we had to have flown in from Ohio. Second time happened to be the same week. There was an oil seal that went out. It's been in service consistently ever since. So I don't know, you referring to any other?
Point Lahash, all of them. I get them all.
The Point Lahash is,
Well, I know a lot of problems with that was personnel. And we had one breakdown, but a lot of those keys down there, with a lot of personnel didn't show up.
that's correct.
And that's what the problem is. They want to know what we're doing to adjust that we don't have that
We're
problem with that.
advertising for deckhands and trying to hire them, and we
Okay.
John, you on the ferry?
hire one person today.
I'm sorry.
We did the paperwork to hire one.
Oh, okay.
You still on the
Mr. Russo?
Can I comment on the ferries?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm still talking about
Eppley.
Yes, sir.
I remember the challenges that I had when I was the president operating the ferries, and I remember getting calls from a lot of people, including maybe somebody that you might know. Have you learned a new appreciation for the operations of ferry now that you're in charge?
Absolutely.
I was wondering if you really got a grasp now, but thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Blank?
I'm not finished.
Oh.
Well, you got a question?
I just wanted to say thank you very much, Todd. I noticed when we got on the boat today, the money went in a bag. Good optics, man. Thank you very much for implementing that.
Well,
I wanted to ask if any of the council members, if we'd like, can we take a tour of the ferries one day? Can we check those out, up and down?
I'm sure we can set it up with the superintendent.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Mr. Bartholomew, Mr. Kagnovich?
One thing I could tell you about boats, they're all a hole in the water and ain't no amount of money gonna fill it.
All right, Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, can we go back to item 8 for introduction of ordinance and resolution?
Well, I'm not finished
Yeah,
yet.
Mr. Bartholomew still.
Oh, why didn't you finish?
Mr. Bartholomew?
See, it took away all mine, what I was trying to do. in terms of thoughts. The other concern is the Woodlawn Firehouse.
Yes.
Has there been any consideration in the budget from the administration to put some money in the budget to identify as a future project till we get the $4 million that is needed for the Woodlawn Firehouse?
I spoke with Ken Dugas about that last week. We do have drawings for the Woodlawn Firehouse. He told me the price tag is $4.5 million. I don't know where we would get $4.5 million from.
So there is no money being placed in the budget specifically for the Woodlawn Firehouse, not necessarily $4 million, but any money.
No, sir.
Has any money been adjusted in the budget for the Woodlawn Firehouse?
No, sir.
Thank you. Okay, none. All right. What? You ready to go? You can go. Oh, y'all can go.
I'd express the same concerns I expressed with item 10, item 10I. open-ended, broad discussions without being specifically labeled on the agenda is specifically prohibited by the open meetings law. And it's my concern that we're currently in violation of that state statute. The administration and legal department's not trying to prevent conversation and discussion. It's just that those items should be specifically listed on the agenda so that members of the public who view the agenda have an opportunity to come to the meetings and express their concerns, their issues on those items.
Does that also reply to the updates of the parish president and the port director? Because they're not specific with their reports. I just asked you a question, so yes or no?
Well, I think it actually does apply to all.
Okay, good, thank you. I appreciate that, you answered it. And the other thing, again, I want to thank the administration team as well for doing an outstanding job in calling back and responding to requests up there, and I thank y'all very much. The only call I haven't received back was Mr. Burris' office. I called his law office and at the council, and they told me they would give you the information, and I never got the call back. But all the rest of them responded, so thank y'all very much. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. At the request of Mr. LaFrance, back to item 8, introductions of ordinance resolutions. Mr. LaFrance?
A resolution authorizing the insurance of a sale of not to exceed 16 million of revenue refunding bonds of the parish of Plaquemine, state of Louisiana, prescribing the form, terms, and conditions of such bonds and providing for the payment thereof, providing for the sale of such bond, authorizing an agreement with the paying agent, and providing for other matters in connection therein.
All right. Approval of the minutes? Offered. That's for second by Ms. Albro. Any questions, comments on the minutes? Machine is open on the minutes. Passes 9-0. The motion to adjourn. Mr. Bartholomew votes to adjourn. Mr. Albro seconds. Any questions or comments? Machine is open. The meeting is adjourned at 5:47.